So, this difference of opinion that we were just talking about, Gemma.
I thought it's rude to hit people on the head when they're just enjoying a drinking, and Michael said that you should if they're annoying.
No, we're talking about the episodes as a whole, and I think, looking back at the week, I think we're going to end up saying that you enjoyed it more than I did. I still thought it was a strong week. It was definitely, it felt special, but there was I've got some issues with it that maybe you don't. So we'll talk through those as we go through each story. So we're going to be starting off, I think, I want to go with the poster boy of the week, which is the Ray's race to raise the place, which it's basically what the whole of the 60th anniversary has been plotted around, really, isn't it? Ray getting his bulldozers in and trying to knock down the street, although it turned out that it wasn't necessarily the main focus of it. But because some of what happens in there affects the other stories, we're going to kick off with that one. Geoff is gone, Gemma.
He certainly has.
He's over. He started off the week in court and ended up on the forecourt, splattered out. So yeah, Yasmin is now Geoff free, which is what I want to call this. In fact, she is a Geoff free Metcalf, isn't she? So that's going to be.
I don't think she'll be keeping that name.
I think I'm expecting she's going to be. But you think, does she go back to Nazir? Does she go back to the surname of the husband that she also hates?
Yeah, maybe it's time for a change.
Maybe we'll finally find out what Yasmin's maiden name was, and she'll go back to that one.
She should call herself Yasmin Phoenix.
Yeah, rising from the ashes.
Literally, or the flames of the house.
Oh yeah, that fire on Wednesday that seemed to put itself out.
Well, sometimes it just happens, and that's what the fire brigade always say. Just leave it. Sometimes it goes out. Don't bother phoning us until the whole house is ablaze.
We then had a little bit of the regular Ollie Gone story, which is still the NAF storyline title, but also it was a bit of a NAF story this week. I felt that ended up being a bit of the weak link. You should call it Samanigans,
shenanigans, but Samanigans.
We can call it that if you want. And then finally we have the story that looked like it was going to be the weak link of the week, but actually turned out to be something
dead juicy,
exciting and juicy.
So we really had three big...
I'd say it was more saucy with all that ketchup on the ground at the end. That is the fagging, shagging and falling off wagon / smug Scottish hit, which is what happened to us. Smug Scottish git at the end of the episode. Or do we call it smug Scottish hit or smug Scottish git hit? I don't know, I'll decide by next week. I've had to come up with this really quite at the last minute because we did not see that attack happening until it did.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time to prepare a storyline title. I'm just saying that's the best I could come up with.
Don't get told in advance, and these things are going to happen.
So do you want to do the Ray stuff, or do you want to do the Geoff stuff, Gemma? Looking at our orders, have you got Geoff and Fang and Shaggin, or you got your Ray and your Leanne stuff?
Well, I think the most exciting things are the Geoff and the...
Oh, you can. I'll let you have those. I'll talk about the Ray storyline.
I was going to say earlier, there were three big climaxes this week for the three big storylines, but it actually wasn't. It was one big one for Yasmin, and then on Monday when she got out, and then Geoff on Wednesday dying, and then so that was the same story, and then Fridays was the Carla and stuff. Yeah, it was good. So really, the main story that we all thought was going to be the main story, the raising of the brewery, nothing happened.
Well, we didn't really even think as we were going into the week, as far as I remember, that it was the brewery that was going to be bulldozed by the diggers. I mean, we also saw the poster with Debbie. Debbie Ray and whatever, and the bulldozer in the background. And I thought, and we've been talking for weeks about how they're actually gonna mow down the maisonettes, but no, they didn't even try this week.
It was funny how this was it was a red herring.
It really was, and I don't think they meant it to be. And I think that had things gone the way they'd originally planned to at the beginning of the year before COVID, this probably would have been
a bit more dramatic.
Yeah, the centrepiece and what it was all built around. But it turned out to be a little bit of a...
damp squid.
Let's find out. So
look, the one thing that I think everyone was waiting for was the sinkhole to come into effect.
I was waiting for that sinkhole.
And that bloody thing could not have been more irrelevant.
That sinkhole is a massive flop.
That's a white elephant.
What is it with you and your weird sayings this evening? It felt like the sinkhole was... When did it open up? September? It felt like, they're putting this in so that it's going to be something important for
felt
the 60th
like-
anniversary. And it's just like, no, just over the past few months, people have been coming in through David's back door and saying, I've just been looking at the sinkhole. And that's literally all the sinkhole has been doing for all this time.
I mean,
it
Sarah
precipitated
today-
David's selling, I suppose, but...
Sarah today came through the back garden and not, you know, in the dark. She didn't fall down the sinkhole at all. And really,
To
you
be
said...
fair, she just had to walk through the gate and down the patio, unless she took a massive detour.
Well, and the other thing is, you said about... oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
I was talking about it... I don't know what I said, about it making David want to sell up.
Yes, that's it. The thing is, he didn't want to sell because of Shona, and Shona said she didn't care. So that he didn't even need a sinkhole. He could have just said, raise offering us money to move. But I don't want to, Shona, because I thought you wanted to stay here. And Shona would have gone, I don't remember this place.
Yeah.
Let's move.
I really do think that
It makes me
in
think...
another life, in a parallel
Yeah, it would have been
non-COVID
a
world,
bigger
that
deal.
sinkhole would have had to
People
have been
might have
a
been
much bigger
falling
deal.
in it, holding on the sides, climbing up. A bit like in Batman, that bit where he's in the prison. It's a big hole in the ground.
They just
I
need to
think-
get one of the factory girls to get out there into number 8's back garden with their sewing machine, stitch it up, and let's just forget it ever happened.
Well, they need to chuck some crap
and
in
it's
there.
not that they're actually doing any work at the factory at the moment.
No,
Bit of freelance.
But it
right.
makes me think they went, oh yeah, let's have a sinkhole. And this was the part of their plan at the beginning of the year. And they spent money somehow on something that meant they had to have a sinkhole. Like, did they buy a giant piece of green cloth? And they're like, we have to use this now. You don't
Gotta use
understand
it
how
somehow.
expensive. And we can't dress characters in it because then people will make funny outfits on them on the internet. You see what happened to the Queen that time? She wore that green dress. It was horrendous.
Well, they got a double use out of it when they were filming the Geoff on the roof scenes this week, didn't they? Because they had some of it was filmed
Yeah.
out there, and some of it was green screen.
They also had plenty of cloth for their documentary thing.
Oh,
that
yes,
was
they
set
did.
against green screen.
There was lots of green screening.
So,
on
you
that.
know, who knows how big this sinkhole was going to be originally. We've got
I feel
50
a real
metres
sense
of green screen fabric.
disappointment about this sinkhole.
Absolutely pointless sinkhole. Absolutely
I
pointless.
was okay, and with it not really appearing between September and this week. So I thought, okay, fine, you know,
Yep.
COVID can excuse many a thing, but I was pretty convinced going into this week that we were going to have a digger driving down that sinkhole. Honestly, that was my big theory going
How
into
would it
this
get
week.
there?
I don't really know. I mean, like I said, I thought that they were going to try and bulldoze down the Masonettes rather than the brewery. Oh, who cares
I
about
just
the
want
brewery?
to say again,
But-
we had another argument on Facebook about what is the definition of a masonette, and there is no agreed upon definition of what a masonette is. Except I want to say that I don't think it ever refers to a terraced house. I think it is any building which has its own private entrance, which isn't actually technically a house.
Well,
Because we live in a masonette, and we live in a building with someone else lives above us, but we have our own entrance. It's not a flat. But these houses have been called masonettes the whole time. They're not
doesn't
masonettes.
matter.
I think somebody pointed out that originally there were masonettes there,
Yeah, there were.
and I think that's why they're called masonettes. But I think that's the only reason. Sorry, anyway.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I thought that a digger, even after Monday's episode, when the protesters were stopping the diggers coming round, you know, through Nuttall's gates, I thought that maybe there's going to be some kind of swerving, or even when Abby took charge of the digger, was she going to go haywire in it and go down the sinkhole? I know it's not even the first house you come across. You'd have had to go past the Nazirs, you know, run over Geoff down on the floor there, through Sally, narrowly avoiding her conservatory, and then into the sinkhole. I don't know, maybe. Or even when Geoff was up on the roof on Wednesday's episode, and like, he's going to fall off, I thought, is he going to actually fall off down the sinkhole? Because they were climbing all across that roof, weren't they? They didn't have to be above the Nazir's backyard when it happened. But
No, and just to point out, in case anybody was confused, because somebody did ask us this question on our Facebook group, the brewery they were going to knock down is not the same brewery as Newton and Ridley Brewery. And it's always bothered me on the show that they get their beer from Newton and Ridley when they're literally, the Nuttall's Brewery is literally within throwing distance of the pub. But that's the way it's been for many a year.
yeah, but not all the time, is it? That's the thing. I think the Nuttall's Brewery has only been there for about 20 years or so. despite what Ken would have you believe in his
Well,
Tiananmen
that's
Square speech this week.
Roy's been saying it's been there since the what are they called, suffragettes.
Yes,
era. So
I
don't know what
think
you're
it
trying
has
to say.
been.
Well, it has been. Apparently.
Well, I saw an episode that was in the early 90s and on ITV3 earlier this year or last year, and it had Jack getting on a bus to go to the Nuttall's Brewery. So unless it took a massive detour, I think
this is
that
what
the
we've been
Nuttall's
saying.
Brewery has its canon places moved across the years.
This is what we've been saying before about if you're like a long-term fan of Coronation Street, and now I consider myself more to be that now than I did before the beginning of this year. Now I've seen so many more episodes across the decades than I had before. Really, the other side of the street is so kind of changeable and malleable that I don't understand why we're really supposed to care whether they knock down the Nuttall's Brewery or not. Like, go, have at it, bulldoze it, I don't care.
I think the thing with that this week was that if you've knocked down the brewery, if Ray gets the brewery knocked down, then everything else will come down like a pack of cards around it. Like
we've totally sidetracked what we were supposed to be talking about. So
okay, so the episode starts off on Monday with that fantastic Imran speech, which is his little. We get to see the montage of all the big characters of the week getting up to their little mischief bits.
He's reading off of his notes, isn't he?
Yeah, Ray's got all his Yeah, he is. He's got his little highlighted
lovely
notes.
handwriting.
Yeah, but you can't use apostrophes properly. Ray's looking at his documents with photographs of all his evil plans on there, and he's smiling away. We find out, Kevin was going to be going to Blackpool, wasn't he?
He was going to Blackpool to get a part, but I thought they cancelled the pantos. But they haven't, because Kate and Wills took their kids to the panto today, and also I'm supposed to be going to the panto.
Oh, you always have to get Kate and Wills into the podcast.
It's not my fault the royal family's never been more relevant, Michael.
Something we haven't mentioned on the news ever is that Connor and Les are back in panto again this Christmas. They're doing some piratey panto thing, virtual online panto thing. And they were practicing, they were rehearsing at the Alamo just earlier this week.
I'm going to an in-person panto, and I was worried about it, but we have got a box, so I think it's safe.
Anyway, on to our second note of the week. This is going to be a long street talk. Last week's was definitely the longest street talk of the year, if not ever, and I don't know whether this is going to...
Let's see if we can not make this too long.
Well, I mean, it has been a late start. So Ray tries to persuade Brian to sell up. So we know that as of last week, number 12, the cabin, all that kind of area there, that still belongs
up
to...
for grabs.
Yeah, still, well, it's up for Ray to grab, but Ryan doesn't want to let go.
Yeah, Kathy and Brian own that, and Rita owns the flat upstairs.
Yes, I think that's right.
and Ray's trying to tempt them with this 50 grand bonus.
Yeah, Brian says he's not interested, although he kind of looks a bit intimidated by the fact that Ray is still nagging at him about this. Kathy says, no, look, we're not having this. Stick it, says Kathy. Not selling up. So Roy, meanwhile, is getting very excited about the idea of getting the brewery listed, because it turns out that it's got some old pipes or... I don't know.
I'm sure it's not an unfamiliar process. I'm sure people in different countries understand what this is, but just in case you didn't, in this country, if something's really old, it gets listed, and then it means
they're doing Barbara Knox next and William Roach.
Just means you have to buy your paint from somewhere really expensive, and you're not allowed to get double glazing unless the Queen says you can. I think
they were also, when they're saying that the suffragettes used to use it as a meeting place.
But I think they said that wasn't true.
Oh well, doesn't matter. He's still feeling pretty confident anyway.
Didn't somebody say somebody got hanged? Somebody's
Maybe.
relative got hanged or something.
I don't know.
Did I make that up?
You might. I don't remember that, but I've not been paying attention. So Debbie comes in and she offers to help out.
Thank you, Debbie.
Which is great for her because she gets to find out about their plan, because Ken and Roy innocently reveal it to her, and she wishes them good luck and then scurries off back to Ray. He's getting pretty riled up by this. The local history lot are incorruptible, he says. That's more feeling, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
He's getting a bit more feeling-ish by day.
He is. He's getting closer to Scouse. He's going further down that motorway there. They need to send in the demolition crew today. No, I don't know where that came from. So
wasn't bad.
Debbie causes a distraction back at number 13 by cutting herself. Isn't she chopping up something to make the lunch or something? And she says, Kevin, go and look in the car for a plaster. I'm sure that's the only place where they are in the whole house. Now, we saw at the end of last week's episode, Debbie had planted something in the front of what we presume was Kevin's car. And you'd said, reckon it's drugs. And you're absolutely right. We don't find out where she got the drugs from or anything like that. But
it never gets
doesn't
stated
matter.
what it is, but it's a piece of foil in an oblong, a small oblong, like the size of the palm of someone's hand.
It's probably
with
like a Kit Kat or something.
With brown substance smeared on it, and I was going to say it's somebody's Kit Kat.
Oh, I'm
that's melted
sorry,
in
I
their
got
pocket.
in there before you. Well, Kevin just
He's
sees
like-
the silver foil, and that's
Kevin's
enough,
like, Abby, you've been eating Kit Kats without me again. I told you I was
There's two
saving
sticks
it.
on there. We could have had one each.
It's there
Come
for
on.
sharing. Everybody knows they're for
We're
sharing.
a couple now. No, she comes back in. It's drugs, and Abby's like, I don't know anything about that. If it was me, I wouldn't be stupid enough to just go around leaving it in the car. And she's right, you know.
You would if you were high.
I suppose so, but you might wonder about it the next day.
Where did I put my Kit Kat? Oh no, I sat on it. It's melted.
He is not so sure who to believe at this point, because you want to.
I tell you what, they didn't play this up very much. It kind of comes up a bit with Carla and Peter, but the paranoia you must feel if you live with an addict and you're waiting for them to fall off the wagon or relapse or something.
Yeah.
It must drive you crazy, because every single time you get you encounter something like this, of course you go, well, it's clearly you've been doing drugs again.
So Abby ends up storming out because Kevin
Doesn't know if to believe or
immediately
not, yeah.
stick by his girl.
Yeah.
So Sebby and Debbie says, well, that explains Abby's behaviour recently, I suppose. So
She's
just put
on
the cat among the
drugs.
pigeons, really. Abby comes back later, insisting she was set up, accuses Debbie, who fires back at her, says to Kevin, look, Abby's putting Jack's safety at risk by bringing drugs into the house.
He's not here at the moment.
Jack's not even here all week. He's been with a friend all week or something.
The question is, where did Debbie get this drug paraphernalia from?
They're just hanging around Bessie
or did
Street
she just
gates.
Does she just torture Kit Kat? Literally.
Not a Kit Kat, Gemma. That
No,
was
I
a
know,
joke,
but
remember?
what does it look like? I don't even know what it would look like. Brown foil. Is it like brown?
Oh, it's just an OXO cube, probably. They're easy to get hold of. Just go down to Dev's. Well, go to Co-op, it's probably
Have
cheaper.
you got any OXO cubes that look like drugs, Dev? Yes, we do, actually. Prop guys are always in there asking for those.
Kevin goes to pick Jack up from school. He doesn't seem to have taken a side yet, and he comes back in almost immediately because what is that out on the street? It's only a massive digger with Ray right behind it.
Can I just say, he doesn't seem concerned to the level that he should be about what is going on here, because either his girlfriend has relapsed and she's back on very hard drugs and she's driving his kid around in a car while doing them. I don't know how, because you need all your hands to work the steering wheel for a start. Or she's been stitched up by somebody who has access to the car, of which there are only really two people, Jack and Debbie. And he's not really that bothered.
Does the drugs thing get brought up?
No,
by the end
it really-
of the episode?
it's like-
It just kind of
Debbie never says
forgets
sorry about
it.
that. Sorry about that, Abby. You were getting too close to my nefarious plans. It was unforgivable, wasn't it? Really, what she did to her.
I think that by the end of the week, because
Too much
Debbie's
stuff has
evilness
happened.
had been found out.
Too much other
They
stuff
just
happened.
assumed they pinned it all on her.
But Kevin really is so dense, isn't he? He just do you not wonder where the drugs came from? He's like, well, it was either Abby or it wasn't Abby. Well, if it wasn't Abby, who was it? Kevin, you donkey.
But he thinks it is. At the moment, he thinks it is. And like you said, when you're living with someone who's an addict, you're just waiting for.
No, but at the end, he worked out it wasn't her.
Did he though?
He still doesn't.
I think he's forgotten about it because there's been lots of
He
other
really
dramas
is so
going on.
simple-minded. He probably has forgotten it happened.
Or is that just the script writers have forgotten that
Let's
they'd
not,
put that in on
let's
Monday?
not start that.
Anyway, this digger is. It starts off at the top of the end of the street outside the cabin. Rita's there for the first time in 6 months. I don't know what
wearing a
she's
bin
been
bag again.
doing. She gives Ray a jolly good talking to while Brian does his best Churchill impression.
I didn't like any of the speeches that anybody gave
I
for all
don't
week.
think I did either. The digger is headed for the brewery, as we said earlier. Abby
one cares.
gathers everybody together for a sit-in outside the gates, protect the brewery. So they set up camp, trade insults with the digger driver, and for now, Ray appears defeated. And that's kind of as far as it goes on Monday. Surely this will pick up on Wednesday, the big 60th anniversary episode. Kind of not. Evelyn's joined in, so that's a load of fun. She starts doing a speech on her a megaphone at the beginning of Wednesday's episode. Everyone's feeling rowdy, and another bulldozer turns up. Debbie has a sneaky listen to Abby telling Kevin about getting the brewery listed. So she gets her phone out and tells Ray, look, we got a problem here. The digger later on, it's the night time falls. It takes their fire pit.
This is awful.
Just not cricket. And this is when Ken does his speech. This isn't a development, it's demolition. And he does this this tank man impression. I didn't mind it, but I don't think it needed to be pointed out.
To be the most insulting thing I've ever seen on television.
Explain.
You're right. We didn't need to have somebody go,
Tyrone
it looks like he looks like Tank
Man.
Man. Tank Man isn't a superhero. Tank Man is a bloke who was protesting the murder of students by the government of the country that they lived in. People were crushed underneath the wheels of tanks and murdered as they protested. It's not comparable to people protesting about gentrification and knocking down a listed brewery that has got really nice struts inside it. It was so insulting, especially considering what has happened in China and Hong Kong with the protesters trying to protect their rights against a tyrannical government that wants to strip away democracy. It just boggled my mind that they really wanted us to know that they knew what Tank Man was. Like, Tiananmen Square is one of the most horrific things that we know that the Chinese government has done. Imagine what else they've done that we don't know about, and they're doing it right now.
Yeah, I think if they'd have just shown Ken, people might have gone, "Oh, that looks a bit like that." And
they didn't need to point it out.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as I saw a picture of it, because I did see a picture of Ken standing there before I saw the episode, I thought, that looks like Tank Man.
I just can't get the idea out of my head of him being a superhero now you said that. Like,
the fact
massive
also,
thing comes out of his chest and fires cannonballs at you.
He is a tank. The thing is, nobody knows what happened to him either. It's very possible he was dragged away and murdered. It's just not...
Anyway,
don't need
this
it.
isn't a podcast of politics. I don't even know who the Prime Minister is. Abby...
Yes, you do, because he did a tweet about Coronation
Street. Oh, yeah, he
Street.
did, didn't he, old Bojo? He said, happy birthday, Coronation Street.
And everyone went, get on with it. Get on with Brexit.
Anyway, what's going on? He does his big speech about, I was born in the shadow of the brewery. No, you weren't, Ken. That was Ellison's Raincoat Factory, I think, or whatever it was back then.
Also, he's like, this isn't a development, it's a demolition. How do you develop things?
Build on top of them.
You just build on the top. It gets a bit like Jenga.
You said at the time that Ken's speech there, it felt very much, let's open the box of Corrie's speeches about I've lived here for a long time.
It just didn't.
And it's just felt we've heard it before. Gail said it, Ken said it before, Rita said it a load of times before.
Yeah, they've used it too much.
Referencing the fact that you've been in the show for a long time.
Yeah. The other thing was
bit cliche.
This was the episode, Wednesday was the episode when they finally remembered what gentrification was. They never said the word, but they finally started to say, you can't do this because you'll price us all out and our children won't be able to afford to live here. It's like, traditionally, this is not what people do, though. I know that you guys do this and your children move in up the road from you. And Ed, the only person that I thought made sense was Ed going, my kids won't be able to buy a flat here, it's too expensive. Yes, Ed, you need to get those children out of your house. They're both grown adults. They need to move out immediately. It should be like, they should be happy. They're already living like 6 to a 2-bedroom house.
Yeah.
They should be grateful if they're building more flats. Nobody complained about Victoria Court when it got built. It said it was too fancy and expensive. There's plenty of professionals living on that street who are living in places that are far below the standards that they would actually be living in.
We've just tapped back into what we've been saying about the story for a little while now.
It's totally missed the mark, this has.
And we were waiting to see if this week would make us care about it more.
They tried really hard to think of reasons why people would care this much, and they didn't really pull it out of the bag on it. I don't think you can't just never develop anywhere or put in more property. And considering how overcrowded everything is and how many people don't have homes, to build more places to live, I can't see how you can moan about it.
I didn't really hear very many convincing reasons about why they didn't want to do this, considering the amount of other building works that have been going on around that area over the past 60 years. and also the fact that there weren't very many residents that were protesting. What was
They
there,
weren't.
like 8,
Yeah.
9 of them?
And most of them hadn't been there for 5 minutes apart from Ken. And the other question I've got for you is, what are they doing in Nuttall's brewery? If they ain't brewing beer, what are they doing in there? Nothing. Just sitting around admiring the interior architecture or something.
Mm.
Well, why is there a brewery there?
It has been there. And that wasn't
No,
it?
no, I know it has been there, Michael. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're a business and you're making beer
Yeah.
on a Wednesday afternoon, can somebody just roll up and run you over?
Oh, yeah. I
Is
think,
it not? Is it not?
I think it has been closed now, I think they
Well,
said.
then bloody knock it down and build some flats.
Although wasn't when they had when they had all the Victoria Street building work there, when was that? Last year, the year before, I've lost track now. I'm sure they had like posters about we're redeveloping the brewery, you know, and that was the excuse for why there was tarpaulin everywhere down Victoria Street
Open
for
a
all
gym
that
in
year. So yeah.
Useless waste of space is what it is. I don't care whether it's got nice beams inside it.
Yeah, they could do something with that.
This is not what Coronation Street wants us
It's
to say.
not what they want
about
us to
this,
say, but they needed to work harder to make us care. Anyway,
I don't care.
It's okay because.
Oh, okay.
Oh no,
good.
it's not okay.
No,
we
oh,
don't
no,
have the
what?
bloke come yet. Where are we up to?
It's the
This is where
demolition.
This is where Abby does a hero bit for the
This
week,
was
doesn't
fun.
she? I thought this bit was fun. She takes advantage of Ken's temporary distraction to jump into one of the digger, and she kind of commandeers it and starts swinging it around and having a bit of fun.
She starts making sparks come out of the cobbles, which, you know, Ken would have been furious about 20 years ago, but he was fine with it now.
She ends up knocking the power out because there's a little electricity box or whatever they're
Oh
called over
no!
there.
And the ring road's backed up as
and
well.
that sets the tone for the rest of the week. And
Dark.
that was one of my favourite things that happened in this story. The power being knocked out and the fact that the rest of the week was all in, you know, relative darkness, which I thought helped the atmosphere an awful lot. So whoever came up with that idea, very, very clever.
Good idea.
Later on, the cops have arrived. Some bloke turns up with a temporary stop notice for the bulldozers. It's like,
On behalf of the Society for the History of Weatherfield.
Is it one of Kevin's mates or something that's found it? It felt very much like,
What?
damp squibbish, anticlimactic.
Well,
Somebody just saying, "Here's a bit of paper." At least in the 40th, they had Noddy Holder come and deliver a notice in the last.
Who would you want
in the last
now?
act?
What comparable celebrity could we get to come and deliver the good news?
Keith Lemon.
Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I mean, everybody seems to think that this is the end of Ray's plans, but
It's
I
only
thought
a
it was
temporary
fairly
stop
obvious
order.
that Ray is not going to give up, even before I saw Friday's episodes. I didn't get why people thought this was the end of
It can't be
the Ray development. I mean, for a start, he's got a load of property now.
Yeah, he's got a little bit.
Yeah, but he's got for a start, he's got David's house. If I was Ray and this was really the end of the story and I wasn't allowed to develop and make all my millions of pounds, I'd just evict David and live there and annoy everybody. You know, I mean, that's what if he wants to get petty with it.
We've never seen where Ray actually lives, but I imagine that moving into number 8 would be a bit of a come down. Does he just live in the penthouse suite of his
Probably.
one of his
Probably
hotels?
just moves
Is it
around
one
from
of his
room to
hotels.
room.
We hear about all these hotels.
Yeah,
we only ever
all
see
loads-
him in
it's
one.
all-
He
it's
goes
all
from
mouth.
the bistro to the other hotel, and that's about it. It is.
Yeah.
It is. He is all mouth and no trousers because he keeps trying to take them off to have it off with
no.
various employees. Anyway, the plan has been thwarted for now, and then we
Ray finds out. They find out that
Ray found out about the plans. Yeah, the bloke who brings it says, "Oh yeah, Ray nearly tried to put a kibosh on this." And then Abby said, "I think that Debbie might be a mole." She comes up with that. She puts two and two together pretty quickly there. They confront Debbie, who says, "Fair cop, governor. I am Ray's business partner. Guilty as charged."
She's like, "Do you know that this hotel's going to have a
this is going to
swimming
be
pool?"
great? Yeah, she does. I do kind of feel sorry for Debbie in some way. I mean, even on today's episode, she was trying to say, "Well, this is why I did it," and it's
Really,
I was
she's
trying
just
to
told
protect
them.
people's interests. And I don't think that she's as evil as
She's not that evil, but she should have said something when she turned up to start with, and not lied that she was poor.
True,
and got her relatives who are clearly not.
Oh, where's the fun in that? C
Buy me
says
chips. I'm unemployed.
Kevin ends up turning his back on her and announces to everybody that Debbie has stitched them right
Shun
up.
her.
Yeah. Then we got Craig coming along. to the bistro to say to Ray, the protesters aren't committing a crime, so sorry, I can't get rid of them. And also, there's been a temporary stop order placed at the site. Curses, says Ray. And Faye's there, still being his ass kisser, saying, oh, don't worry, Ray, you'll get what you want. And
he's like, I know what I want, come in here.
Yeah, he does. He goes and locks her in the office together. And it looks like he is up for round 2 with Faye. And after this
Doesn't look like she is.
No. After this episode, I was like, oh, well, Friday's episode is going to follow... It's going to have to follow straight on because it was left as a... Dot, exactly. So it's still on Wednesday at the moment. But Friday's episode today, Gary very handily happens to come in to interrupt a bit of Ray rape because he comes in and he hears Faye going, no, Ray, don't do it. Please, Ray, no. Gary, what, does he break down the door or something?
No, he says come out, and then
Faye's there doing up my blouse thing, and Ray's there putting his belt back on. Gross. Disgusting. And
I can't believe, I know why, I know they couldn't have Gary Lampin because of COVID, but I really think of all the people that deserved a punch in the face and all the people that would have delivered it, Gary really would have delivered a punch right into Ray's head.
Did you just say delivered?
Yeah.
I wonder whether they do the bistro. Gary,
don't you think he was asking for it?
Yeah.
And if anybody was going to do it, and he was like, Gary was like, Faye, get over there, get out of the way. I was like, go on.
No, but he does instead give a line that was just as sharp as any kind of axe that he could have dug into Ray's back, which was, you can shove these contracts so far up you can taste Times New Roman. I liked that. I hadn't heard that one before. Very nice, really Gary.
He rips the contract.
He rips the contract.
The
contracts to sign to say you can have the factory or something.
Yes,
isn't it?
He sold the factory. Now he's ripped it up. Don't think that's how it works.
No. Well, Ray was talking to Debbie later
Ray
in the
was
episode.
like,
we can't just tape it together. And
yes, you can. Well, does that mean I can just go to like my mobile phone person and go, I don't want this anymore. Rip. He can have this back. Yeah. Hey, mortgage people, look at this. I'm posting you back the contract. What are you going to do about it? We're like, we'll take your house back. Yeah, you could do that.
Debbie goes back home to 13 to find Abby and Kevin still taking everything in, basically, about her being a nice piece of work. She says, I heard about the development back, earlier on this year, and I had to get involved when I found out where it was so that I could protect people's interests.
And you've done a smack-up job of that so far, haven't you?
She's also says that she's got nothing to do with Ray taking the garage, which I do believe. But Kev's not having any of it. He tells her to sling her hook. Well, she has to go and pack her stuff up first, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Faye, meanwhile, is in Gary's flat. And I think this was a photo that I'd seen before this week. Faye looking a bit guilty or sad on the sofa and Gary behind. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't realise that Ray was going to try and have another pop this week. So Maria comes in. She's like, can I be in the 60th episode week too, please?
It was funny because last night I had a dream that I said to you, do you remember there was a character in Coronation Street called Maria once? And she popped up today.
She did. Faye's determined that Gary doesn't phone the police. I guess it's one of these I just want to forget about it sort of things.
Yeah.
Which is, a common reaction that some people have in this sort of situation.
Well, you totally understand why they want to... Yeah.
Just wants it over and done with. Maria tries to get her to open up a bit, but she doesn't really want to. Gary, meanwhile, is looking a little bit murdery when he mentions Ray. The protesters are dancing away outside the brewery for a bit.
They're all listening.
We're still here, everybody. Woo,
they're all listening to random music because the power's out, so they have to rely on the old school ways. I
thought the old school ways was getting Rita to sing. I can't believe we didn't get Rita singing around the fire pit. That's probably why they stole the fire pit, so that she didn't start going, chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Get that fire out of there immediately. Well, we know that they've rolled the piano out of that Rovers a few times.
They have, haven't they? Yeah.
You're right. They really could have had a good old sing-song with a tinkling on the ivories.
Yeah. Ina would have done it.
Well, back in the day, they were all like musical
all the
performers.
Actors were, they could all crack out a tune if they wanted to. They were all very, very talented.
Not like these days.
Ray's trying to phone Debbie on the phone, and is trying to get. Oh yeah, he's in the bistro later with Adam because he's been getting up to all sorts this week. More on that later. And he says to Adam, "Look, you can have the keys. You can lock up yourself." I probably should have put this note in the other story, but never mind. keep this in your head, listeners, when we get to it in about an hour and a half's time. Debbie, meanwhile, has packed her bag. She's still trying to defend what she did to Kevin and says, look, I'm going to try to get you out of this mess. And Kevin's like, not under my roof, you're not. Sling your oak, madam. Go back to Ray in his penthouse suite. Debbie and Ray end the episode at the hotel. He's telling her he may have lost the factory, and she's like, no, you haven't, sunshine. You better find a way to put this thing through. I've invested too much money, too much time in this. Do whatever it takes to get this development sorted.
We've already heard from Debbie before that she has basically, this is all in for her. There's she's got no choice now but to push ahead with this.
Yeah, she's got nothing to fall back on, whereas Ray has just got his money pit, hasn't it? His money sinkhole. So it's probably not quite so urgent for him. He doesn't want to lose face, obviously, but it is.
It's starting to become more and more personal for him, for sure. But she's desperate, isn't she?
Yeah. So we started off with this one because it literally was the poster boy of the week. Do you think that was the right decision?
I think this is still an ongoing story. I think this is a strange thing because
it felt like it was just getting started and it didn't rev up very much.
No. This felt like 3 big stories happened this week, and one of them just like chugged along, which is this story. One of them came to a very final conclusion, which was the Geoff and Yasmin story, and one of them like took a absolute 180 from what it was and started a whole new story.
Exciting.
Which was the love triangle / murder.
Yeah, we don't know from watching the show yet whether Adam is dead, but if he is, then we're totally calling this that's murder.
We are assuming that this is another Who Pushed Ken, where the person who is the victim is still alive but doesn't remember anything.
That they do like that, don't they?
Yes.
Anyway,
that's what they like to do with Barlows.
More on that later. I guess that the spectacle of the digger and the community spirit of the protesters and all of that make this, I guess, the natural fit for what you'd want to have as the selling point for the anniversary week.
It was just flat.
It felt flatter than a bulldozed brewery. Not that I know what that looks like because we didn't get to see any of it this week. I was expecting a lot more from this story.
So tell you another thing, right? Remember when Nina, Evelyn and Toya were going off protesting and we were saying, how much fun would that be to watch them? How much fun would they be together? Toya wasn't even there.
Toya wasn't there this week. She had one scene this week, didn't she, with Leanne trying to persuade her not to go to France.
And it was kind of fun, but it also felt a bit forced. And there were some funny bits, but they also felt a bit like everyone. I know it's the social distancing thing. They all just looked like. It looked kind of natural, but it also still looked weird.
Well, if you only got 8, 9, 10 people on your protest, you kind of got to space out a little bit. Otherwise, the diggers will just go round you.
Yeah, exactly.
Evelyn, Dev, they all had like one little thing to do, didn't they? Dev had his drum for a bit, which is kind of fun because I will forgive anything that Dev does because I think he's amazing. Evelyn was there. She had a little megaphone speech. Nina, what she did? She
just sat on a chair and kind of smiled at people.
She didn't need to be there apart from to make up the numbers.
Yeah.
But Evelyn was one of the people on the poster, wasn't she?
She doesn't even live there. She lives around the corner. What does she care for?
Yeah, Evelyn was one of the people on the poster on the big picture for this week's episode, and it's like she didn't do anything.
She didn't use her wit.
It seemed to be a bit like, look, everybody, we've got Maureen Lipman on our 60th anniversary weeks. What you got, EastEnders?
The problem was that it wasn't Ray driving a digger.
No.
And we didn't know who these people were who were driving the trucks, and so really they would be like, okay, I don't care, whatever. You jump up and down, I'll just go home and come back tomorrow. Like, there was nobody to shout at. If Evelyn could shout at somebody and go, you bunch of you know what I mean? Some kind of funny, cool insult or something to somebody that we knew who they actually were. Instead, we had these faceless people who didn't care.
driving their dinky diggers, which I don't know whether they could have actually taken down the brewery anyway.
Yeah, I would. I think if I was a protester, I'd say, go on then. I would literally like to see you pull down a brewery with the world's smallest digger and another little machine which seems to just have an arm that picks up fire pits.
I mean, we just saw it on the DVDs when they knocked down the community centre or whatever it was, the Baldwin's Casuals, didn't we? And they had a proper wrecking ball.
They literally demolished the part of the set, didn't they?
Yeah, and it just was it just sadly felt a little bit pathetic.
Abbey was fun. The lights out affected the rest of the story.
I enjoyed that.
I don't know what a lot of the people were there for.
No, Brian and Kathy were other ones that...
But I don't think this is over by a long shot. And I also think that everybody is a bit more invested in this now. Now they know that something's going on, which they didn't know previously to this. So everybody's now united against Ray. Ray is growing even ever more bitter against the people and a bit more desperate, and Debbie's there egging him on. So we did have a bit of a development for this story, but it didn't blow me away, and it wasn't...
No, for something that was supposed to be the main story of the week.
It didn't feel like a sort of a showcase of anything in particular.
No, the fact that we're kind of running out of stuff to say about it already just goes to show that I think something's gone a bit wrong here.
I don't know what the point of billing this as your big story of the 60th was, when everybody was way more interested and excited about Geoff and Yasmin. Geoff and Yasmin was the A story of the week.
It was, but I suppose there's only a handful of characters on this, and at least in the Ray story, you can get a bit more of an ensemble out of it. This story also had the Faye stuff, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting anything more to happen.
And if anybody was in doubt about whether or not she wanted to sleep with Ray in the first place, hopefully
I think they
now
made it quite
her
obvious
running
in
around
tonight's
shouting
episode.
"No Ray, no please, no Ray" might help people to get what is going on here, which is rape.
Yeah. Any ideas about where it's going to go?
I think this just literally gave...
Is she going to go to the police?
No.
Or?
This was basically just gave Gary motivation to stand up against Ray. This is all that was, unfortunately, because, it's an important... Feels like too much of an important thing to happen to a character for it to just be a little plot point in someone else's story. Yeah. Rape as a character development plot, and also not a sort of side piece in someone else's story, not really great.
Makes you think as well that in normal circumstances this might be an opportunity for Anna to come down and look after her daughter, been through something similar herself.
I mean, the thing is,
or are we just going to ship Ray off to wherever Anna is now, and then that's the last we see of her?
I know people criticise Coronation Street for some of the choices that they make about sexual assault or rape stories like this. I tell you one thing it does, is that it does open up conversations and perhaps changes some people's minds about what is the meaning of the word rape, when do we apply it, and is it useful to use it in this situation or that situation to describe what happened. I think a lot of people still aren't on the same page about what happened to Faye, and hopefully, I mean, Coronation Street could pretend this kind of stuff doesn't happen because people don't get it, or they could confront people's prejudices by doing a story like this, and that's what they've done. And we're going to still end up with people not getting what happened, and still there's going to be ignorant people saying, oh, I don't think it was that bad, he didn't even touch her anyway, she was up for it the first time, oh, she got something out of it, etc, etc. There will still be people that say that, but one by one they get defeated, or they come to a realisation that how ignorant they were being. And if it has to happen one by one, then then I guess it will.
Yeah. As you said, more to come.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I don't know if they're not going to go out with a big bang with this story. If they weren't going to do it this week, it feels like they're not going to do it at all. No,
but I think there's still more to come from Ray, for sure. Well, there is. Yeah. And we've still got... I don't think anything dramatic and horrific is going to happen at Christmas, but we've still got New Year's.
Yeah, we'll see. And
it's not like this show's going to stop next year, is it? We've got, Ray could still be around for a long time. Which is a lot more than we were saying this time last year. When we thought really he's taken over the bistro. As a villain. I think he's a great villain. I think he's good. He's not a great villain yet. I like him. He's still got a lot of charisma to him as well, which is very unfortunate.
well, especially
not unfortunate
when
for watching him, but you know, when you're watching him molesting an innocent girl, and you're like, he's quite charismatic. It makes you sound like a monster, but he is. And that, you know, lots of people who are evil are charismatic, aren't they?
Yes, we are. Right, on to the Geoff Free storyline, Joe. Geoff Free Metcalf.
Right,
End.
So this Monday blew me out of the water, to be honest, because I wasn't expecting a lot out of it, but probably my favourite. I don't know.
I'm thinking Mondays was still the best episode of the week, which it shouldn't be, really, because all the action was Wednesday and Friday. Yeah. But maybe the fact that we are erring towards Monday being the best just goes to show that sometimes the dialogue and the character-driven stuff can do a better job at getting you hooked than the big set pieces. The
performances, the actors, the storyliners, and the writers worked really well together on Monday to make something that didn't have to rely on stunts and gimmicks and green screens, and
it did have some fading.
It was great. It was good old-fashioned, good writing and good acting.
Oh, it's so good. I loved Imran.
Imran was
and where was he for the rest of the week?
The best.
Imran was so good. And having watched the episode and looking on social media and saying all the praise for Imran, literally
so glad.
All over the place, on the forums, on the Twitter, on the Facebook, everyone was going, go Imran, go Imran.
Yeah, brilliant.
It made me so happy, considering we had him as our character of the week last week. We have been chatting to Charlie quite a lot this week. And
so proud.
Yeah, we are.
I'm so chuffed he finally got to show his chops. I mean, Imran's had some great stories before and some really emotive scenes. This really felt like this was like, this
is the best
chuck that
Imran
on the show
has ever been. And I wonder whether it's going to be a turning point for him.
Well, I hope
have the Corrie bosses seen this week and go, okay, let's do more with him.
I hope that they see the reaction online that was massively positive for this. Anyway,
and it didn't have to be as well. Sometimes you can really love something and you go online and people are like, nah, about it. But it was just universal, pretty much, acclaim.
But this makes me think, this is why I suspect Imran for what happens to Adam.
Why?
Because Paula's mysteriously disappeared. And now Adam's out of action.
Yes,
Imran
he's taken down all the other solicitors.
He is so in love with doing the big speeches at the end of the court case. He just has to get rid of all of the other solicitors so he can be the only one that gets called for the cases.
But you know what? I think we would have recognised it if Imran's checkered jacket was the one that we saw going into the beast, Joe. And this was looking pretty black, unfortunately.
I just want to point out, yes, everybody on Friday was wearing black, but don't forget that you can change your outfit.
It could have been anyone.
I
don't think it was Imran, although we don't know where he was on Wednesday and Friday, because he and Toya certainly didn't appear to be at home when Yasmin and Alia ended up going back to the flat on Friday night, did they? Odd.
Maybe they were busy in the office.
Maybe.
And you don't need lights for what they were doing. On Monday...
Took advantage of that, thanks, Abby.
Imran's doing his notes to Stop the Cavalry.
Yes.
Not Stop the Calvary, which is what I put on Twitter because I spelled it wrong. And he's doing his big speech about why Yasmin...
road to Calvary.
It wasn't one day more. Everyone else is getting ready for the court case while he does his speech. Yasmin is looking terrified in her cell. And Tim's trying to get in the car. There's a late start because the CCTV footage has been retrieved.
Yeah, the judge is like, oh, go on then.
He's like, you know what? I got so much crap on Twitter for saying you couldn't get the bloody... Fine then, have it. It actually didn't take as long as I thought.
It's a new week now.
They got it on Saturday. Lucky, because I've got stuff to do this week. So Imran is like, ha-ha, and just like, oh no. Because he's been recalled. And then Imran does this wink like, don't worry, I've got this. I'm a hotshot lawyer. Geoff denies seeing Elaine since July. And not only is Imran an amazing lawyer, but he's also a detective as well. Because he's like worked all this out from the video and he talks them through it. So he plays this...
I love this.
He plays this CCTV
unraveling of
thing.
Geoff.
And it's a baseball and cap and a mask, a guy wearing this sort of stalking around
in the hospital,
and Jeff's like, it's not me, can't prove it's me. And Imran's like, isn't it suspicious how obviously this person is hiding his identity? It's almost like he knows that the cameras are there and he might appear on them, and he knows the place really well and he would avoid them.
And then he shows the picture of the car registration, doesn't he? From
He's
this
like,
car
is this your
park
car,
half a mile
Mr.
away.
Metcalf? And yeah, so
He's like, yes, I went shopping in town.
So basically, what he has done is parked his car in a place where there's CCTV camera, where they can see him putting on his disguise that he then is seen wearing on the camera in the hospital. So all of his lying and his hiding comes to nothing in the end because of his mistake that he's made by parking there.
Yeah, Geoff has to kind of
like,
admit eventually, oh yes, that was me.
Well, maybe I did go, but I can't remember because I'm old, and I got hit in the face by my son, and I don't remember what I was doing, but I was probably talking to people because I'm a really nice guy and I'm a hospital DJ.
Yeah, because Imran's trying to find out at this point, did you go and
speak to Elaine?
Menace Elaine last
week?
He's
like, well, I go to the hospital all the time because I work there. And he's like, no, they probably won't remember, but I did speak to some other patients, not Elaine though. And he's getting really wound up because Imran's badgering him, and Imran's like, you enjoy seeing Yasmin suffer, just like Elaine before her, and just like, no, Yasmin's useless and she's stupid. She's useless in the kitchen and in the bedroom, and no wonder Sharif was knocking off her best mate. And then Imran's like, no further questions, Your Honour. So he's made himself look like a right dick.
Yeah.
Then there's summing up time, and
that was so good. No further questions.
Yeah, Jeff's looking really worried. We never see the jury again. I presume that they were there, but they find Yasmin not guilty.
Hooray.
And Jeff literally stands up in the middle of this going, this is a load of old rubbish, this whole thing's a farce, and he walks out, which I don't think you're supposed to be able to do. But Yasmin is free to go, and she still doesn't really get that she's free. The whole week, takes her a long time to change her mentality from I am the one that's in trouble and has done something wrong, to I was the victim all along and now I'm free. So she's
not like her chickens. They just had to have the cage door open for half a second before they're waltzing right out there again.
Freedom. She leaves the court and Geoff comes over, and he like, every time he sees her from now on, he's like, come on, Yasmin, let's go.
What do you want for your tea?
Yeah, now this is over with, let's just move on with our lives. I'm offering you a lift home, and Yasmin's like recoiling in fear, and Imran's like, do one. Doesn't he? He tells him to do one. It's great. And Jeff's like, she's still my wife. And Yasmin's really upset, and she says, he's never going to let me go, is he? So Imran takes Yasmin to the police station to make a formal complaint about Geoff harassing her. Meanwhile, Geoff is planning his escape, which is to go to Cyprus with Christine, and he phones her up and says, get your suitcase ready, we're going one-way ticket.
Yeah, I think he says, I've just got a few things that I need to
push off a roof.
I've just got a few things I need to sort out here first.
Yeah.
But yeah, Monday's episode, absolutely top notch.
Now, Wednesday's episode, there were a lot more critics of this episode. I liked this episode, but you didn't as much.
I didn't as much.
Okay, so on Wednesday, Yasmin's still a nervous wreck at Alia's flats. She can see Geoff outside watching her, and she's freaking out.
Down on Victoria Street.
Alia has to leave Yasmin alone, and there's a parcel delivery for her. And I was watching this going, Yasmin, don't answer the door, don't open the door, what are you doing? She gets it, it's in the hallway, and then she closes the door, and then the door knocks again, and she thinks it's the person who's just dropped the parcel off.
It's the classic bluff, isn't it?
She lifts the blinds, and it's Geoff, and he's there, and he like pulls some flowers out, like some magician's flowers, like ta-da! And he starts talking to her through the glass, and he says, I'm gonna escape. I'm gonna make a fresh start, but you just need to sign over your share of the house to me, and I've already got a buyer for it. And then I'll disappear forever, and you'll never see me again. And she's like, no, I why should I give it to you? I worked my whole life for that place, blah blah blah. But then he kind of doesn't really give her a choice, and makes out that he gives her like an hour. He says, get over there, get your stuff, and get out. quick, otherwise I'm going to chuck it in the skip or I'm going to set it on fire. Basically. It's quite ironic, really. She panics. She tries to phone Alia, but she can't get through to her. So Yasmin gets very brave and she goes there herself. And
looks like somebody's projecting Geoff's greatest hits on the wall.
yeah, there's a weird psychedelic effect where literally somebody just projects imagery of Geoff being
mostly from
her
that May episode where he gets it in the neck
in red and black over the set. And because everything is now plunged into darkness because of Abby at this point, it's quite dramatic. It was a bit cheesy. I'm not sure about this. But
I wasn't sure about that.
The whole episode was just a love letter to horror movies, which is what I liked about this. I really liked how they approached this in a different way. Like, quite often they'll try and do like an action kind of flavour, but this was like proper horror.
Well, it had all the creepy dolls, didn't it?
Yeah, so I just want to say another thing. A lot of people are criticising this and saying, oh, why would Yasmin open the blinds? Why would Yasmin go to the house by herself? Why would she do this? Why would she do that? That's a massive plot hole. Plot holes aren't when characters act in a way contrary to the way you think they should. And if characters always did the most logical, sensible thing in any story, stories would be really boring.
Yeah. She
panicked and she didn't... I want to point this out too. At this point, Yasmin was not in danger from Geoff. Geoff's plan was not to lure her there and do something to her.
Yeah, but I mean, she doesn't know that for sure.
She doesn't know that, but that's the fact.
Mm.
He was abusive to her, but he never physically harmed her. I think he pushed stuff around. He shoved her once. But it's not like he's threatened her life. You know what I mean?
He came at her with a knife, governor.
Okay, all right. I'm not trying to make excuses for Geoff. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to say, Yasmin, she was actually right to do this because she wasn't in danger from Geoff at this point.
I didn't have a problem watching
I know,
this
some people do. I think that she
Yasmin
was really brave to do this, and it was probably part of her trying to overcome the hold that he had over her, to go there, to contemplate going there to get her stuff.
I thought it was really sweet when she went out the back to see the chickens. I thought that was a really nice, tender moment of going, oh, Emily, my babies, and I haven't seen you for so long.
Demeter was one
of them. Yeah, that's right, wasn't it? I thought that was a really nice reunion. I
really thought that was sweet.
Characters and their pets.
Yes.
They kind of didn't need to do that, but
they did need to do that because she left the door open so that the chickens could escape for plot purposes.
When I watched that, I thought, would she really? I know that she hasn't had to feed the chickens for 6 months or so, but would she really just leave the coop open like that?
She thought she closed it. She's got other things on her mind. Look, this is another thing I'm saying. It's not a plot hole when people do stupid things. It's just people are stupid. If nobody had any accidents, but no, that's real life would be completely different.
She chose to go around to Geoff's, but she didn't choose to leave that open. She just made a mistake that I don't think that she would actually make. But it was for,
Michael,
so that Geoff could get some kind of poetic justice at the end of the episode.
You've left the fridge and the freezer door open this week. You're
This
not
week?
one. Yes. You're not one to talk about leaving doors open by accident. Oh, there's no way she'd left the door open. Wouldn't you double check? Yeah, you think that you would, wouldn't you? But some people don't double check doors when they close them.
If I'd just come out of prison and then raided the fridge for some ice cream,
I would excuse you for leaving the door open, is what I'm trying to say. But you haven't, so you can bloody shut it.
All right.
So
the chucks are out.
The chucks are loose. She goes upstairs to the magic room, and this is the room that you said.
I said.
A week.
They hadn't built that just for that one scene the other week.
No.
Right.
I'm sorry, the power was not out at this point. Then the power goes out, and she gets left in this room with creepy dolls, all kind of leering and looking scary and weird. Very atmospheric, I thought. Lots of this was very atmospheric.
I thought it was all right. They had one of those horrible ventriloquist dummies, didn't they? And
I swear to God, they only make those things for horror movies. Nobody buys them for the purposes of having a ventriloquist doll.
We've not seen Geoff doing any tricks with them, have we?
No.
It was new to me.
Alia goes into speed dial and she finds Geoff raiding the tills because he's getting ready to leave, and she's like, oh, how dare you, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I don't care, I've already stolen everything, what's a few £100 more, and it doesn't make any difference. Alia confronts him and says, oh, the police are after you now because we went to go and report you for being horrible to Yasmin. And Geoff stares at her and she looks a bit scared. And she says, well, I've shown Christine the reports about you in the press about what you got up to and how you lost your case. And now she's going to dump you. And she goes to phone the police. And this is another thing people were saying, oh, why would Alia confront him? Blah, blah, blah. Like, because she didn't think he would hit her around the face with a cash box.
Alia can't resist the
Alia's
opportunity
always like
to
this.
smug it up in front of Geoff.
Alia's like...
That led to her downfall this week,
Alia's
literally.
like a chihuahua on the other side of a chain link fence. Like, giving it all mouth like that and because there's a chain link fence. The chain link fence between her and Geoff was her assumption that he would not get physically violent with her because he'd not really done that in the past.
Yeah.
Little did she know that now he's got nothing left to lose. This was the point that he snapped because he has got no escape mechanism anymore. He thought he had it made. He had another little wifey lined up to do his cooking and his cleaning in Cyprus. Now that's been taken away from him, and also it's possible that he might end up getting arrested for what he'd done to Yasmin, which is actually a crime. So he hits her in the face.
I must admit, everybody, I did shout "Go Geoff" when he did that. Sorry, earlier. You are still very annoying to me.
She gets the phone.
But when he kicked her on the floor, that was
that
too
was
far.
horrible. So she goes to phone the police on him, and he whacks her with a cash box. She goes down instantly like a sack of spuds, and then he kicks her. I couldn't believe it. I have to say, when he hit her, I was like, ha ha ha.
I know, it's really bad, isn't it?
But then he kicked her. I was like, oh, that's just wrong. Oh, how could you? Geoff, you're mean. I don't want to say, I'm wondering, was there some cynic on the set going, can I just say, I think he should beat her in the ribs because everyone's going to laugh when he hits her with the cash box. We need to make sure that people aren't cheering. We want everyone to hate Geoff, don't we? Yeah. Give her a kick.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything wrong yet. Get him to kick her when she's down. He leaves her on the floor and runs away. She's unconscious and she stays there for God knows how long. We know this doesn't happen in real
just
life.
the right amount of time so that she can get to the roof later.
And of course, her phone now doesn't work because it was dropped from, shoulder height. So that's why she didn't phone the police, obviously, in case you... Yeah, that bit doesn't make sense. He phones Christine and says, you might have seen horrible things about me, but you just know that that's not true. And if it was true, I'll change. And she says, yeah.
I did like that scene of him walking towards the camera down Victoria Street, and you could see the desperation in his eyes. And yeah, he's trying to persuade Christine that he's not so bad really, and then just getting more and more maniacal, which is what the side of him that Yasmin's eventually confronted with. When
didn't take Christine long to get to that stage, did it? From Mr. Nice Guy to raving lunatic.
Yeah. Do we see Christine at all this week?
Christine was useless in the end, wasn't she?
And this Philippa? No, Philippa's Elaine. Pauline was the person that he borrowed the car from
Pauline
last
should be
week.
in a disciplinary hearing right now, if there's any justice in the world.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, Geoff, you dumped. And he's like, you stupid cow, I don't even like you anyway, cooking is rubbish or whatever. Puts the phone down and he's absolutely furious at this point. Meanwhile, Yasmin has come back downstairs and it's really creepy and like spooky because everything's dark and she's got her little torch.
She can hear the protesters outside, can't she?
But you can also hear
noises
from the kitchen like weird, like really freaky noises. Like, what the hell is that? I thought that there was a lunatic on the loose, not a ghost in the kitchen. Turns out it's Emily Bronte, not the author.
Not the ghost
chicken.
of Emily Bronte.
She's in the kitchen and she's like, oh, Emily. And then out comes Geoff like, raw, I'm evil. He's there. She's there in the dark lounge together. He's already booted Ollie in the ribs. Who knows what he's going to do next? I do, because I saw it. He starts squirting loads of fluid everywhere while she's watching him. Yasmin tries to bluff. And she's like, oh, Alia's coming. You won't get away with this, Geoff. And Geoff's like, ha 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 ha.
He goes proper full on.
Absolutely.
Maniacal,
Love this.
supervillain.
He was absolutely amazing. In Bartholomew this week, especially on Wednesday, that just that specific bit where he's like, I
think it's because he knew that, you know, his time was
He didn't ham it
up
up too much either. I thought he was pretty restrained with it, but he was terrifying. He's like, alias Sparko or dead. And then Yasmin tries to trick him. She's like, oh, you know, you always were a very passionate man. He's there just trying to like commit arson in her house. She's like, I know you're quite emotional at the moment.
At the time I was more upset for the potential ruination of one of my favourite decorated houses on the street rather than Yasmin's safety, I have to say.
I was thinking that's the nicest set.
Number 6.
I wasn't worried about Yasmin dying because I was convinced that would not happen.
Yeah.
So I was like...
Are they going to have to redecorate in that house?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, look at those lovely stairs there. They look like hardwood. And they've got nice iron railings. Nobody else has got that. I mean, Sally's house is pretty nice.
Don't want to get Ed round because he only does a half-assed job on stairs, as we know from his own house.
Ed's like, oh, that'll do. Just put up some plywood. I want to also say, I don't think that the set designers are listening, but in case they are, sort out Nick's picture in Nick's flat. It's gone a bit funny.
Yeah, did anybody else spot that? I pointed it out to you, didn't I?
It's fallen out of the frame.
It's Nick's 10K picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has fallen out of the frame.
It's really nice. Bit. It's a really nice touch. I don't think it's very obvious when you're watching it, but that picture of somebody running that's on the wall along the kitchen wall in Nick and Leanne's flat is actually a silhouette of Nick with like lots of words inside the picture about him running and like 10k Nick and all this kind of stuff. It's quite a nice touch, but you never see it close up. Meanwhile we're talking about
there's
Nick
fire going on, Gemma.
Yeah, sorry.
People who haven't watched this yet and are relying on us for
just bloody get to what's going
our commentary and description are on the edge of their seats here.
So, Yasmin is trying to placate him and she's trying to trick him into thinking that she thinks he's being reasonable and this is all, you know, a totally normal thing to do, but perhaps they can chat about how to negotiate his emotions and give him what he wants. And she's like, oh, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go back to the police and tell them that you're not actually that bad because, you know, I know you're squirting lighter fluid everywhere, but you're just really upset. So he's like, drop the phone. And carries on squirting everywhere, and then he gets the lighter and sets fire to the place. Fire everywhere instantly. Yasmin runs upstairs, which is like the classic horror movie thing to do.
Yeah, because
when you're being chased by a monster,
from running out the front, hadn't he? Because she tried to go to the front door. Yeah,
it's locked. Yeah, the classic horror movie thing to do is to run upstairs because there's nowhere else to go and everyone blames you for it. Typical victim blaming.
She didn't really have much of a choice in this instance because if she'd have tried to run out the back door, he'd have stopped her. Yeah.
She runs up to the magic room in the attic and she locks herself in there. He's banging on the door. She starts calling out of the window for help, but all these bloody stupid protesters are having a little dance and a sing.
I loved that scene. That was really nice camera panning from that one, like from Yasmin then panning outwards and seeing her just desperately trying to waving, but
yeah, that's the kind of thing that
it couldn't be heard over the noise. That was lovely.
Thought we needed a bit more of, to be honest, because the bulk of the action then was Yasmin climbing on the roof, Geoff hammering on the door, smoke everywhere. Geoff comes out and starts climbing after her. Then Alia appears as if from nowhere and starts climbing as well. So you've got a roof set up with Yasmin, Geoff and Alia all there, clinging on for dear life. I think this sounded good in someone's head, but it looked a bit weird, to be honest.
I thought it looked absolutely fine. I think we had problems with different things, didn't we? Because I had no problem whatsoever with the believability of the setup there.
Establishing shots of where they were. It was clearly a set that was built of a roof, and they were all on the roof set.
But we saw the making of afterwards, didn't we? And there were certainly some shots which were actually filmed on the roof and they had stunt Yaz.
I know, but I really wish there were more long shots like that because it really didn't... I didn't really ever think, oh, they're high up. Did you?
Yeah, I would say I did.
Okay.
I believe that. I bought that.
Different things, different people.
That's how the phrase goes, isn't it? Different things, different people.
I liked the way that they were naturally socially distanced because they were chasing one another very slowly.
But they didn't need to be there, did they? Because those three were put in a bubble.
Well, what was the point of it then? I
get
don't know
too
why.
close.
I don't know why they were putting a bubble together, because they could have done this without.
Well,
doing
when Alia turns up, she kind of whacks Geoff a little bit. They seemed. I think that there were times when they were closer than 2 meters.
You're going to argue with me about everything.
Yeah,
Oh, when you're wrong, you're wrong.
I thought it was quite nice to have characters close-ish up to each other after 6 months worth of everybody spaced out.
What does it say about us as a society, Michael, that the producers of this show would ask actors to go into bubbles with one another for the purposes of showing violence on the screen and never for emotional purposes and for like comforting Leanne after grieving for her child?
They could have
What
made
is
more of
wrong
it.
with that?
They could have had, like, I don't know, Geoff grabbing Alia and taking her hostage, knife to her
That's
throat.
what I was expecting a bit more of.
Did we see Yasmin hugging Alia in the end? I'm not
I
sure
don't
if we
know.
did.
I don't know.
But maybe this bubble that they went into didn't let them do.
I don't understand what this bubble was, to be frank, but we can't get into it because we weren't involved. So they're all along on the roof, and Yasmin finally stands up to Geoff and she says, "You're a pathetic excuse for a man. I'm not scared of you anymore."
She has a great final speech, doesn't she, before he lunges at her and
he
falls
tries
to his doom.
He tries to grab her. He slips. He starts falling down, and he's like halfway down the roof. And Alia and Yasmin are both staring at him. And then Yasmin starts to take her scarf off to help
Alia's
him.
like, "Let him die.
What the hell are you doing, Gran? Let him die." And she's like,
I'm surprised she's not there eye-leaning him and stamping on his fingers to try and get him off the edge.
She says something like, I can't remember what she says. Something like, "I'm not doing it for him, I'm doing it for me," or "I'm not that kind of person, he is," or something to do with, she's like a noble person and he's a scumbag, so she's going to have to try and save him.
Yeah, it's one of those things that they kind of had to show, a bit like when they showed the tram driver putting on the brakes in the 50th anniversary episode, to show, I tried my best.
Well, it was more for her own conscience, wasn't it? Because if she had not tried to save him, she would never have forgiven herself, probably.
Yeah,
but,
and a lot of Friday's action with Yasmin was her wrestling with her guilt over not being able to save him. But I think once she reflects on it, she'll realise that she did do the best that she could have done.
Yeah.
And yes, if she hadn't crawled up there, then he wouldn't have crawled off after her and he wouldn't have died. But at the end of the day,
he's dead now.
He had it coming.
So she tries to help him with the scarf, but he slips and he falls and he ends up on the patio where he dies instantly. Weakest Corrie villain ever. The chickens...
John State fell off a hospital and he just picked himself up, brushed himself down and went on to menace another day.
I know, I don't know why he died
He was a good 30 years younger, at least.
So comprehensively there. I don't think that's... You'd have to really fall completely wrong to...
I mean, it's a 2-story house. It's not like you fell off the bungalow or anything like that, is it? You might have had a bit of chance.
No, I know, but I just don't think that...
And he was old.
I think you've got to be really unlucky.
How old is he? Like 70?
32? You've got to be unlucky to die from falling off a roof.
He did. Maybe he landed funny, like you said.
Because my friend's boss fell off a ladder doing his gutters, and he just lied there for a while.
He was a bit younger than Geoff.
He wasn't that much younger, to be honest. Chickens peck around him, and
they
he's
should have
dead.
pecked him.
They should have.
Oh,
can I just
whatever
say?
It took.
They should have
had
put
the chickens pecking Geoff.
Mealworms in his eyeballs so the chickens could peck his eyes out.
If it had been Game of Thrones, they would have had it.
Definitely.
Coronation Street should have been it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to stay socially distanced from a chicken.
Yeah.
I am adamant that they could have tried harder, and I don't know anything about how they did. They should have had the chickens
on his
pecking
coat.
Geoff. Would it have looked too obvious? I don't know.
I thought it was great. I thought that would be great. I'm just going to imagine that's what happened.
I liked the poetic justice of, and the camera panning up of him with the chickens after he was the one that slaughtered their sister. Yeah. They were the ones that had the last cluck. But no, they should have gone the whole hog.
If it was If it was Game of Thrones, he would have landed on the fence with the... Is it Sally's? Who's got the pointy fence?
Oh, I don't know.
Would have impaled on that and died.
Yeah, or even just in the coop or something. If he'd have fallen down and landed inside the chicken coop, and then the lid had closed on him or something, that would have been great.
It's not Home Alone.
I was also thinking, I think I probably said earlier, is he going to fall down the sinkhole? Because they were going along the roof. They could have ended up going over
fallen down the sinkhole, but
that would have been a bit silly.
How could they have done it as well? Because the sinkhole doesn't exist in reality. It's literally just a piece of green cloth on the floor. So they would have to CG'd his body falling into a hole that didn't exist. And then what would you do with the chickens?
It doesn't matter. That would have been good, because then they might not have been able to recover him, and we'd have been wondering for a bit longer, oh, is he alive down the bottom of the sinkhole? Because even at the beginning of Friday's episode, there was a question about, was he alive or not?
Is he dead, or has he joined the Ninja Turtles in the sewers? Has he become Shredder? Is he going to come out with like a gang
Shredder? Shredder's the baddie.
Yeah.
Splinter.
Is he going to recruit a gang of genetically mutated turtles to fight the residents of Coronation?
That sounds like the sort of thing he would do.
I know, doesn't it?
We were wondering between Wednesday and Friday's episodes, is Geoff dead? That was the big talking point.
I'm like, it's obvious of course he's dead.
I mean, all of the publicity afterwards said he was, but that's what they want you to think. You got into a little Twitter thing with Matt Hilton, didn't you, earlier today, where you were saying he's not dead. He's like, yes, he is. Yeah,
Matt Hilton was like, oh no, he said something like, by Ian Bartholomew posted like, I am gone, I'm definitely gone, because people didn't believe it. And then Matt Hilton, who's the director, said, a director said, oh, until we meet again or something. I'm like, he's not dead. And then Matt Hilton was like, yes, he is dead. And I said, that's what you would say if he wasn't dead.
And then round 2 commenced after Adam was whacked with a bottle or whatever it was, and today, wasn't he? Because Matt was like, he's dead, or is he? Anyway, that was the end of Geoff.
Yeah, so on Friday, we did run a poll, didn't we? And it's something like 65% of people thought he was dead, but there was still quite a lot of holdouts who were like, no, he's alive, he's going to be missing. So Friday...
Well, we've seen it with Phelan. Phelan fell into the sea and then crawled back out the next episode. Billy fell off a cliff. Fine. So... Well,
on Friday, Geoff's still on the ground, and Ryan pops out the window and he delivers the line that totally explains everything to do with how Alia got there. Oh, it looks like there was a fire downstairs that got put out. What are you guys doing? Ryan, what do you think we're doing? Can you not put this together at all?
It looked to me like they were filming an episode of Batman. You know when Batman and Robin are climbing up the walls and then people put their heads out, and then it turns out that it's actually filmed on the side. It looked just like that, going, hello, it's my turn. Who's going to come out the window next? It's Ryan.
Yasmin is in shock. And this was a bit of a weird turn of events, because it turned from... like we're escaping Geoff, and we're on the roof, and there's a fire. Now there isn't a fire and Geoff's gone. It's kind of turned into like Yasmin's suicidal and she's going to jump off the roof.
I know, I did wonder. I mean, I didn't. I knew that there was no chance.
No
chance at all that Shelley King wasn't going to be
shift,
in this.
Wasn't it? She was fighting demons in her mind at that point, and everyone was worried that she would do something.
She's blamed herself for what's happened.
This was a weird thing for me to watch as well, because I just watched Lethal Weapon this afternoon, and there's a scene in that where there's a man on the ledge, and the way that he gets talked down is a bit different from the way that Yasmin gets talked down. Let's just say it like that.
You mean somebody doesn't come along and say about how his dad taught him magic tricks when he was a boy?
No, the guy handcuffs himself to him and jumps off.
Oh.
And they land on a big trampoline. Anyway,
could have done that in this social distancing, although they could have bubbled up.
Yasmin's still in shock. She thinks she's killed Geoff, and Ali's like, it was an accident. And she's like, Ryan, go and check, go and see if he's dead. So Ryan goes and investigates, and he's like, ew, looks like he's bought it. He shakes his head, and Ali doesn't tell Yasmin straight away, does she?
I think that Harry Hewitt's going to have a bit of a legacy on this
I
podcast.
think
Whenever anybody's dead,
someone's
going to say that they bought it.
Sorry, he's bought it, mate. Ryan and Elaine show up at Sally's house. We finally get to see Elaine again. Hooray!
I thought, I was getting worried. I thought after Wednesday's episode, is that it for you?
I'm glad that she was here at the end. Yasmin won't come down from the roof, and poor Ryan, has to tell Tim that his dad's died. Sally comes to try and plead with Yasmin. So they go up the stairs to the attic, and she thinks she's going back to prison. And Sally's like, no, come in or I have to come out and get you. I'm not good at heights and I've got my slippers on. That doesn't work. So they go and get Tim to talk to her. And Tim's like, oh, I don't think I can do it because I didn't believe her, and who am I, blah, 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 to ask her to come in, etc.
I didn't really like this. I don't think that Tim was convincing in any way. yet she still came to have a listen to his story about magic tricks as a boy. He was almost like he was literally not even talking to her. I know he was doing it to try and get her attention, but yeah, I when she started, crabbing her way back along the roof, I was like, what did Sally do wrong? But maybe she's just upset. Maybe she's thinking, this poor boy, his dad has just died. Maybe I can go and comfort him or something. I don't know.
I just thought it was quite funny when she kind of crawls back and then she hooks herself on. She hooks herself so she's looking through the attic dormer window.
She's like, I'm not coming in.
But it's like she's like two little hands and like a little face going, hello, just peeking through attic window. and Tim's like, Yasmin, let me help you in. And she's like, no, you can't, you're not in my bubble. So anyway, she gets coaxed in somehow, like Tim's the Disney princess and she's a little bird. And they all end up in the lounge. Sally, Tim, Elaine and Yasmin. The police are with Alia outside and the paramedics are zipping up Geoff in a bag. And Elaine's like, yeah, he's gone. He can't treat anyone else like he treated us. And Ryan has to go around telling everybody what's happened. Well, first of all, he's standing in the street, and then Kathy comes along, and she's like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Don't ask questions. Nothing. An accident. Geoff's had an accident." And Kathy's like, hope he. Wish he was dead, or I wish I killed him, or whatever." And everyone's like, "Well, he is dead actually." And Kathy's like, yeah, I wish I'd seen it. I wish I'd seen him die. Like literally, she's like the woman knitting at the guillotine, isn't she?
She is.
She took so much delight in it.
She was the one. I'm glad somebody mentioned Jiggle It Geoff, because I was getting worried. This point that nobody's going to mention Jiggle It Geoff this week, and I still thought when I was wondering what. By what means Geoff's downfall was going to finally occur, I wondered whether somebody was going to be shouting Jiggle It Geoff at him as he walks off in disgrace or falls to his doom, and we didn't get to see him being taunted while he was still alive, but at least he got a posthumous Jiggle It Geoff taunt from Kathy. But I absolutely adored when she saw him being driven off in the ambulance in his body bag, and she lost all the humour and said, "Good riddance to you, Geoff." And I thought that was absolutely perfect delivery by Mel Hill.
One of the most underrated performances of the week.
That was just that one line, and it's partly just ties into the fact that I've said that Kathy needs to do more serious stuff, and although I enjoyed her going about jiggling, just that look, she did that perfectly.
Yeah, and she's got a little guilt too, because she let Yasmin down. And she
has been a bit naff during this storyline. Her and Eileen.
Yeah. Yasmin tells Detective Abney what happened, and she's like, "Oh, I tried to save him. I couldn't do it. I was too slow. I was too late. Oh no." And the detective's like, "Okay, well, we'll talk to you again tomorrow." And Yasmin's like, "Oh, do I have to stay in overnight?" And they're like, "No, Yasmin, you're not under arrest. You're a witness. You're not a suspect."
Yeah, and crucially, Abney says, "I believe you. I've been watching your case all this time, and I believe you." And I think that was what Yasmin needed to hear.
Is she free? It's going to take a while for her to understand what that really means, I think. Sally thanks Elaine for everything that she did, and Tim asks her to stay with him. And I thought this was really sweet. Can you read
me a bedtime story, Mummy? Because I can't read.
It's sad because he's lost a dad, but he's gained a mum.
Yeah.
Yasmin in the flat with Alia later, and Alia just looks really upset, but I guess she doesn't seem very happy, but I would be.
Well, it's because that she knows that for Yasmin this is far from over, and yet the fact that Yasmin's not just going, "Oh, thank goodness for that, what's on the telly?" She knows that it's going to be a long road to recovery. Will we get to see it? I don't know.
I hope not really.
I think that. I think that it'd be good to have it. I think Shelley King deserves a bit of a break now. Yeah. But to be honest, she's had a bit of a break since July. She's had a couple of weeks worth of intense scenes. But I think that potentially we could see, a lot more of this story.
But what story is there to tell now?
Well, Yaz back to normal.
Well, that's like a minute's worth of an episode.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing her. I think going back into the community, going back into the Rovers, going back to the community centre, going back to Roy's and seeing everybody again, because it still kind of felt a little bit like there was no welcome party for Yasmin out of prison, was there?
No.
Where at other times when people come out of prison, people are there to go, hey, come, well, let us buy you a drink, you've been freed, you were wrongfully arrested, whatever. And we didn't get to see any of that for Yasmin. She was just there in the flat, she was there in the house.
Because she sort of became a bit of a, like, she's agoraphobic almost, because she was scared of going out because of Geoff. But,
I mean, Kathy was saying, tell Yasmin I'm sorry for not being a better friend beforehand. The fact that she wasn't there speaking to Yasmin, when she came back from prison, just goes to show what a poor friend she was.
But sometimes when you treat people badly, you feel guilty, and so you avoid them because it makes you feel bad about yourself. That's what happens. I mean, who was it that was saying about that? People avoiding them this week.
I don't know.
I can't remember. Oh, was it Leanne? People avoiding me. Yeah, that's why she wanted to go to France, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you might be right. So. That's it. So,
right.
We've reached the end. We need to talk about bits now. How unspoiled were you for this storyline this week? Fully?
What was the picture that I'd said I saw earlier?
I don't remember. I remember you said something. I know what I saw, which was last Saturday when they released all the promo images for this week. I saw Sarah Khan and Ian Bartholomew on a roof with a green screen behind.
Well, I know you.
And from that, I was like, I think Geoff's going to fall off the roof, which is a shame. And I think Coronation Street really should be careful about what kind of spoilers they're releasing, because when you can put two and two together quite so quickly and come up with, that's pretty much what happened, probably means you've spoiled too much.
Yes.
I said to you after Wednesday's episode, they should have maybe released pictures of the fire, and then they could have made people
think something
different was going to happen, and then everything on the roof could have been kept as a surprise, and I think that would have been a lot better. And either way, people would have think, oh, well, Geoff gets burned in a fire then. But the fact that he wouldn't have got burnt in a fire... and
if you show somebody a picture of something and they can tell you what happens in the story from it, you've given away too much.
Yeah, and even on Wednesday morning, and I didn't realise this, thank goodness, until after Wednesday's episode had been broadcast, that I think they released a whole new load of more pictures for, here's some stuff that's going to happen in tonight's episode, and there was even more blatant pictures of what's going on in the roof, and it's like, no, it's too much. The synopsis for this episode, again, having read it after the episode aired, was too detailed. Obviously didn't say that Geoff falls to his death or anything. I think it maybe...
I've got hiccups.
You got hiccups. I think it maybe talked about Geoff setting the house on fire. It was... I'm really, really glad that an awful lot of what happened here I didn't know. I didn't know for sure that Yasmin would be let off. Even up until the second before the verdict was announced. I thought,
God, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? Because they came back really fast.
They came back fast, and Sally and Tim were commenting and saying, oh, they've come back fast. That must mean that she must be free or something. And I thought, oh, they're not. If they've had those two say that, then maybe that means she isn't free. So the fact that I was still kept guessing until the last minute was great. As I say, I didn't know that the fire was going to happen. I didn't know that Alia was going to get hit by a box, which again was in the synopsis. So there were some great moments there, but ultimately the fact that Alia and Geoff ended up on the roof together, when she got booted by the box, or not booted, whacked by the box, I was like, okay, but she's going to come back. And as I said earlier, I predicted that Geoff was going to fall to his doom. Now, I didn't know whether he was going to die or not, but so that kind of disappointed me a little bit. But maybe on the whole...
maybe that's why you didn't like it as much as I did, because I didn't know that was going to happen.
You didn't know there was going to be any rooftop stuff? No. On the whole, I still really did enjoy the rooftop drama, and I thought that was different, and I was casting my mind back, because every time they have to do something big, or they have a stunt, or they have a celebratory episode, or whatever, or Britain's Got Talent Week episode, it's like, how can you outdo or do something different to, at least, what's been done before? And there was no way that they were going to outdo the tram crash.
No.
But I'm glad that they picked a stunt that still felt fresh for Coronation Street, because just when you think they've done everything, characters hanging off one of the roofs, I like that. And we were coming up with predictions at the beginning of the year, weren't we? I still I still fancied my chances at there being a natural disaster, which you didn't like. But I don't think any of us said maybe some of them are cliffhanger on the edge of the roof, and it worked because it tied into the street itself, and that's what the programme is about.
I think for me it just felt divorced from the rest of the street because of the lack of shots, like far shots. And I know you said that there were enough for you, but for me it wasn't enough.
I suppose they've had obviously Andrea hanging off a roof a few years ago, but that was more for comedy. And they've had like Jack stuck on a roof before when he went up there to clear the gutters or fetch a pigeon or something at one point. But no, I enjoyed the freshness.
They were just like clinging onto it. You know?
Yeah. It was funny seeing the behind the scenes shots. They had little platform that they were actually standing on, weren't they? I thought it was done really, really well. And I appreciated, as I said, that the fact that the fire for me wasn't spoiled. But it was disappointing that the purpose of the fire was literally just to get Yasmin to go upstairs.
I don't understand
and it didn't seem to have any other ramifications.
How can you set fire to a house with lighter fluid and everything is so flame retardant that within a minute it's all put itself out? So much so that it didn't even singe a chicken. No,
and I'm sure that when Geoff was there hammering on the attic door, let me in, it felt like it was kind of quite smoky, and
I don't think
it's not going to put itself out.
Put themselves out.
No, and which is why when Alia appears on the roof, people had a problem with that. Not just the fact that she had been knocked out cold on Wednesday's episode, but also how did she actually get in? She had to have come in through the back, leapt through the fire, gone upstairs.
And why would she go through a fire? Yeah.
Did she know that they were up on the roof?
Yeah, I don't think I'd go through a fire if I didn't know there was somebody on the other side.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. That was the biggest thing. And when Ryan came up and said, "Oh, it looks like there was a fire downstairs," are we supposed to think that by the time Alia came along, the fire had put itself out and she just walked through? Because I just think that was a bit silly.
Well, you know what? Alia is a bit of a drip, so maybe she just put it out as she was walking through it.
She could have done.
Yeah, no, I just thought the whole cliche of, you think this character's been knocked out, but no, they appear exactly when you need them to be, was a bit naff, really.
That doesn't happen.
So I've got. That's why I'm so mixed about it. There are bits that I really enjoyed and bits that I
even though I'm nitpicking, I really liked it. I thought it was good.
Even like Geoff appearing in the kitchen when Yasmin was looking around and being spooked by all the noises, and then she turns around to look at the front door. She turns around to the kitchen and Geoff's there. I thought that felt a little bit. Where did you just spring from?
Esque though. I liked it. I liked that those horror movie touches. There were a few like his Johnny moments from Geoff as he's trying to, and like I said on where did I say it? The reason why Geoff was so mad at Alia is because she's actually really magic and he's just fake magic, and that's how she got onto the roof through the power of magic.
I think you're right. Right.
Yeah, the atmospheric touches, like the spooky atmosphere, like Geoff as a horror movie monster, the idea that somebody who is like coercively controlling somebody is as horrific as a monster from a horror movie. I like that idea. Like the absolute terror that he reigned over Yasmin's life with is definitely a comparable. I
think the big question here though is, were they right to kill him off?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I can see why people say no.
Well, but we've been saying all along, don't kill Geoff off. That he shouldn't be killed. He shouldn't die at the end of this. And I was a little bit let down, to be honest, the fact that he was. And when they were teasing at the beginning of Friday's episode, let's go and check him, is he going to be out? I was still wondering, there was still a slither of a chance that they're going to go down there and he's disappeared. He's done a John Stape. He's done a Phelan after that fight with Gary.
Right, I want to point out why I didn't mind. And I had been saying, I don't, he should be brought to justice, etc. Maybe, I can't remember what I said. But the point is, he died because of his own evilness, yeah? He put himself into a position where he chased Yasmin onto the roof, and then he slipped trying to grab the scarf. And let's be honest here, Yasmin is a very frail, small lady. I think if he'd grabbed that scarf and pulled it, they would have both died.
Yeah, they'd taken her down with him.
He died trying to kill Yasmin, almost, really, you could argue. And the other thing is, do we really want to watch another trial with the same stuff again? No, we don't. Trials are fairly boring. The only way we could have got out of this is if Geoff had gone on trial for what he did to Yasmin. And what would we have seen then? Exactly the same scenes as we've already seen with Yasmin.
We might not have seen it because just recently we've had Scott get arrested by the police, haven't we? And we didn't get to see any of it.
That would be more anticlimactic, wouldn't it? Yeah, Geoff being brought to justice behind the scenes. Geoff had his day in court where he was trying to stitch Yasmin up, but he got unmasked. We had what we wanted from that perspective. Geoff was unmasked in court as a monster. I'd have
liked to have seen him more mocked and ridiculed and humiliated by the community. That was what I was.
Good job of it.
She did, but I was looking for more of him having to live with everybody laughing at him. I wanted to see that. Or I mean, I've seen some people suggest online that he should have been left paralysed, and wheelchair bound and unable to move for the rest of his life. And I think that might have been a fitting ending. It might have been a bit, I don't
want to be mean, but disability isn't a punishment.
No, I know. That's what I'm thinking. But it's been done in fiction before, hasn't it? Where the villain isn't killed.
Let's not be so horrible. To people actually live with being paralysed, and it's I know, but you get it. It's not poetic justice.
It feels like Corrie's got a thing now where every big villain has got to be killed off, and I'm just thinking, is there another way?
This is the big work. This was the big anniversary week, and the villain got killed on the day, and everyone's moaning.
I'm not surprised. At the beginning of the week, I was kind of thinking, I think they are going to now. It feels like they're building up to some kind of big death for somebody, and why not Geoff?
Let's face it. Once he smacked Alia round the face and kicked her in the ribs and left her for dead, and then tried to set fire to Yasmin and then tried to chase her on a roof, he kind of had it coming.
Well,
up until that point, he hadn't really threatened. I know the knife and everything, whatever, but he wasn't plotting to kill people.
Yeah. I suppose it did lead to some interesting dichotomies for Yasmin on Friday. I kind of, after Wednesday, with her feeling guilty about it and blaming herself, and I think that's probably gonna stay for a little bit. I hadn't really considered after watching Wednesdays what's going to happen to Yasmin now. I just kind of thought, oh, they're going to get down, he's going to be dead, and that's it. So I liked how there was still plenty of meat left on this story on Friday.
I would love to watch Elaine move in with Yasmin.
I really don't want Elaine to go. It feels like she probably will.
I think it was kind of significant that Tim didn't want to be left by himself and he wanted his mum.
Yeah.
I would really like her to stick around.
I don't think she will.
I don't know.
Didn't Sally say something at the end, like, if I might not see you again?
Yeah, but then Tim said, wait till Sally gets back. So it's like, no, I think Sally wants her to leave. That's the sort of thing I say to people when I want them to leave my house.
Yeah.
I'm going to the loo now. I might not see you again because you're probably going to leave before I come back. But if I don't see you again, it was nice to see you. Goodbye.
If we don't have any more of Yasmin, I hope that it's going to be an opportunity to bring the characters of Sally and Yasmin closer together, because they feuded all these years and then they made up. It'd be nice to see them strengthening that friendship, or indeed Kathy and Eileen, both of whom are feeling very guilty about it. That'd be quite fun to see more of that. I think
people welcoming Yasmin back into the community and crap talking Tim would be quite satisfying. I know what people wanted, and I get it. I totally get it. But to a certain extent, there's definitely a vindictive streak in that kind of protracted revenge that is not good for your soul. Like watching how long could you watch Geoff really be ridiculed and shunned? How long would that last? How long would that be satisfying? It's not gonna be more than a week.
Maybe.
What did you want him to be in the show forever? Just being,
well, I think we knew that wasn't gonna happen.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Realistically, unless you want to go through another court case, which you don't.
Well, I don't know if they're as good as the court case on Monday. Maybe I do, because
I don't know.
like we said earlier, that was still the
Imran was really good at that, but
there's
there would be nothing new to say.
Yeah. Going back to what you're saying about Elaine staying, I liked the theory that I saw a couple of people saying at the weekend that Elaine / Philippa is still married to Geoff.
This was last weekend.
Yeah, because and again, it could be something that we missed, but if he's gone around saying, "Oh, my wife's died," does that mean that they didn't actually get divorced? So does that mean that Geoff was never married to Yasmin legally in the first place? So everything that he has taken because she's married to him, is that all null and void? And I wondered, before I was sure that he was going to die, was that going to be the way out of it? Were people going to say, "Oh, it turns out that you're still married to Elaine, you're off the hook, Eileen, sorry Elaine, that's your problem now"? I thought that would have been a smart theory.
That would have been a really clever way to end it, and it would have been a way of ending it without killing Geoff off, really, because he would have ended up with nothing, like you say.
Yeah.
But there was no way, unless that had been the case, there would have been no way of really separating them in a clinical, precise manner, in a satisfying one episode, we've resolved it kind of a way, like it happened when he died.
Yeah. I suppose if they were still married legally, then there's the potential that could Elaine automatically inherit some of Geoff's stuff, which is actually Yasmin's stuff.
I said this to you, and you said no, because they were never married. If Elaine and Geoff are married, then Yasmin and Geoff weren't married. So you can't just lay claim to your bigamous husband's fake wife
so maybe Elaine would just inherit Geoff's creepy dolls. And she's like, "No, you're all right. I think we'll just chuck him in the skip."
I think we'll put them in the brewery, which is now a museum.
Anyway, I did like that theory,
stuff.
but it looks like it's maybe not needed anymore.
I think we're done with this.
Are we done?
For too long now.
Oh dear. I had some issues, but on the whole, I thought it was
a
fair bit of fun.
An Imran-naissance, please. Thank you.
Oh yes, Imran-naissance. Yeah. We'll see. But the fact that he wasn't in it on Wednesday and Friday was just upsetting to me.
Tell me about Ollie.
Ollie, well, he's dead.
Still dead.
He's still dead. He's living it up with Geoff right now.
2 more angels in heaven.
Nothing really happens in this story, to be fair, does it? Leanne wants to bog off to France because he's been doing too much acting recently. Nick's trying to make her see sense, and so does Toya. No, Toya was Wednesday, wasn't she? Peter goes to Leanne as well in Victoria Gardens and says, "Oh, you'll overcome this. You're going to get through this." She's like, "No, me and Nick are bust beyond repair." It's just the same thing as she's been saying the last few weeks, really. And she has a bit of a cry at the end of Monday's episode, where after Nick tries to appeal to her better nature again. You should have learned by now, Nick. Wednesday is the episode that starts with Leanne and Toya in the back of the Rovers. She's booked a one-way flight to see... Ooh, excuse me for a little bit. She's booked a one-way flight to see Stella in France. Toya wants to save her from this fate worse from death by saying, "No, stay here. You can be looked after by the community." Community isn't the buzzword of today's episode, everybody.
Talking about stuff like this.
Leanne's mind is made up, though. She's going to go over to the Loire Valley or whatever it is. And says, "Look, I'm sorry." I like this bit when she was apologising to Toya. She said, "Oh, these past few weeks you've been my punching bag, you've been my
handbag,
you've been my shoulder to cry on, whatever." And Toya's cool with it. She does her sisters before Misters line.
She says something about Battersby's at some point.
Yeah, probably. But she warns her, you can't outrun what you're feeling. It's going to find you wherever you are. She knows, she's a counsellor.
Yeah. She says, "Have you ever seen that film It Follows?" It's really rude, but it's good.
Then we get to see Sam turn up halfway through Wednesday's episode. Nick's telling him about the tram crash, and I did wonder at the beginning of the week whether anybody would remark on the fact that this is the 10th anniversary of the tram crash, and isn't that a bit of a coincidence? But they didn't really pick it up, apart from old Nick.
He's like, "My friend died saving my life.
My best friend Ashley died in the tram crash.
We've rebuilt it, but we haven't forgotten."
Oh yeah, we haven't forgotten, exactly.
I think you have.
He sees Leanne going past the car and tries to talk to her, but she's not interested. So Sam comes up with a cunning plan towards the end of the episode to get Leanne to come back to the street by taking Nick's phone, which he was supposed to be using to order a pizza, and calling Leanne a chicken on it, and nobody tells Leanne she's a chicken, so she
comes
comes
back to
right back,
punch him in
takes
the face.
the bait, and it turns out, it's only Sam. And then Friday, nothing
Basically,
really.
Sam just wears her down with his relentful cheer and
chirpiness,
sweetness.
and
Like,
flossing.
I'm adorable. I can do dances from Fortnite, and I bet you don't even know what that is, Leanne.
Well, I bet she does if Simon's living with
bet Simon's like,
Too
only
cool
little
for
kids
Fortnite.
play Fortnite. I play Minecraft.
Sam uses some kind of analogy of taking a long time to learn how to floss to try and make Leanne see that you'll learn to love me
She's like,
eventually.
look
at
when
me.
you
Just
saw...
God, look at my face. How could you stay mad at a face like this, Leanne?
He says, do you remember
So
the
cute.
first time you heard of the dance called the floss and you were outraged at the stupidity and you couldn't believe how far society has fallen? And every single subsequent time you saw it, you couldn't muster the energy to care as much as you did for that initial time. And then over time, you gradually just become accustomed to how ridiculous it is. Before long, you can't even be bothered to care at all. That's how you'll feel about me one day. What do you think?
You're on, says Leanne. That's about it, isn't it? Nick gets back eventually. He's got his pizza. Simon's locked himself in the bedroom because he's mad about Peter and Adam, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
and Sam is telling Leanne what dabbing is, probably, at this point.
I didn't feel that this story was particularly needed at this point.
Toya got to do an impression of Eva doing a laugh.
Oh, it was worth it for that then. Worth it for that.
Loved that bit. That was brilliant.
That sounded a bit like an impression of...
it sounds like Mickey Mouse whenever I try to do it.
No, I was going to say, it sounds a little bit like an impression of one of Yasmin's chickens.
No, I always sound like Mickey Mouse from South Park when I try to do Eva.
Yeah. And did you... any merit to the story being in here this week?
I mean, it explains why Leanne's... I mean, it's like Leanne is open to not running away and perhaps...
Well, I never thought she was going to run away before the week started, so...
When I was watching Sam trying desperately to impress Leanne, I was thinking to myself, Leanne, how dare you, belittle Nick's feelings for your child and also try to say that you couldn't build a relationship with Sam when you expected Nick to be his surrogate father for all those years, and that when it counted you wouldn't let him in, and then you refused to believe that you could feel the same feelings that Nick felt for Oliver. You couldn't feel those for Sam. Are you saying that are you really going to stand behind that? I just thought that, if there was ever a moment when she would realise how outrageously unfair that she has been, it would have been then. And we don't know what she's thinking.
No, because
kind of cut before we got a resolution.
Yeah,
didn't
that was it really.
I hope that there might be a nice Christmas scene with Nick
maybe
and,
pulling a cracker with Sam
and Natasha. I mean, we'll know if Natasha starts coughing blood into a tissue. We'll know that Sam is going to move in with Nick and Leanne. Yeah,
we've said since the beginning, haven't we, that how long's Natasha going to be staying in there?
I like Natasha. She hasn't been as fun on her return as she was on her exit, but who could top that?
Finally, Gemma, we got everything else. Fagging, shagging, falling off wagon / smug Scottish hit. This story, every time on Monday and Wednesday, this story came on the scene. I was just like, move it on. I'm not interested. Get back to the Geoff and Yasmin stuff.
This was
it turned out that
hit.
it was leading up to something quite juicy.
Amazing. So on Monday, it's all a bit awkward for Carla and Peter because Carla's got another meeting today. And he's like, still looking out for who was this guy. Every single person that she meets, because she said it was a work person, he's like, who was it? She tries to say she's not her type. She's not into these guys anyway. Then we get Dev making a comment to Adam about not being able to pay for something the other day because he didn't have his wallet.
Yeah, he's making a comment to Daniel about Adam.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Daniel goes into the shop and Dev's like, oh yeah, Adam couldn't pay either because he didn't have his wallet.
Yeah.
Daniel goes to see Sarah and says, what was the name of the hotel you were at the other week? And he starts snooping around because we know he used to be a journalist.
So we know that there was the wallet that was left in the hotel after Adam and Carla's evening of passion in there together.
Yes, and everybody knows.
Journalist, everyone.
Not everybody knows that they slept together, but everybody seems to know that whoever left the wallet is the person who shagged Carla.
Yes.
So it's like Cinderella's shoe. It's a shagging wallet. It's not quite as pretty of a tale. I don't think Disney's going to adapt this one. Peter comes to see Carla at work, who wants to take her for lunch, and she knows he's just checking up on her. And then the client that she was supposed to be meeting turns up, and it's a lady.
Twist.
But this is Coronation Street, and who knows if Carla's sleeping with her as well. Leanne comes to tell Peter not to chuck away what she's got with Carla if there's still a chance. There's quite a lot of people telling other people not to give up on their relationships this week. Peter comes back to the Rovers to apologise to Carla, and he proposes. He gets down on one knee and says, I've booked tickets to Kefalonia where my mate's got a villa, let's get hitched. Meanwhile, Daniel's worked out it's Adam's wallet, and I don't really know how he got to that. Oh, he says he spoke to the cleaner at the hotel, and she's like, oh, there's a Scottish man.
There was a smug Scottish git from there going around with Carla.
And Daniel can only think of one man who's smug and Scottish, who was with Mrs. Connor, who has a wallet that is lost. Immediately works out that it's Adam, and Adam begs him, please do not tell anybody. Daniel's disgusted, and he goes to the Rovers. He finds out that Peter and Carla have proposed. He reveals... Does this when he says that she slept with Adam at this point?
No, Adam's the one that says it was me.
No, so he tells Carla, right?
Peter, it's at the Rovers later.
Daniel
Peter can see.
Daniel tells Carla,
oh, yes,
I
he
know
does.
you and Adam slept with each other.
Yes.
And then Peter comes in, and Daniel's like, good luck, mate. On Wednesday, Peter says, you know what, I'm having second thoughts about the wedding. I think we should have it here. Everyone should come, including Daniel. And she's like, don't do this. Please don't tell anybody. She's going to town, she says, but she actually goes to see Daniel to plead with him to not tell anybody about her and Adam, because Peter's going to ask him to be his best man. Oh, then Jenny tells Peter that Carla was with Daniel when she said she was going to town. And so when they have a celebratory get-together, Peter sees Daniel and Carla talking and immediately thinks that they were the ones that slept with each other because of the sneaking around earlier, etc., etc. So he accuses them publicly of having an affair. And then Adam's like, no, it was me all along. And then Sarah walks in at this point and hears him saying that he is shagged Carla. And he's like, we were on a break. And Sarah's like, that was cute and friends, but not really. And this is like 15, how many years later? We're all over it now. Peter starts ranting. Sarah leaves.
This is on Friday now.
On Friday. Adam's mad at Peter because he thinks that he's like, it's your fault that me and Sarah have broken up now. And it's like, what do you mean? I didn't force you together naked. He's saying, oh, I was single when I was sleeping with Carla. It's not the same thing. Ken gives Adam a telling off. The fallout continues. Peter's got a bottle of whiskey. We
think he has. He's disappeared, and so has a bottle of whiskey.
But Carla and Peter are in the back room together, and she's accusing him of taking the whiskey. And he's like, no, I didn't. But if I did, it's your fault. And then he starts taking the bottle and starts drinking it. And she's like, don't do it. And he's like, it's your fault. It's your fault. You can do what you want now. I'll get drunk and you can go and sleep with somebody. And Carla says, I've been selfish, reckless and cruel, but let's move forward. I love you. And Peter's like, I don't care. I like whiskey. Yum, 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 yum. Adam follows Daniel into number 6, where they're both trying to plead with Sarah, but she's like, I'm not interested in either of you. Get out. So they both leave. Peter slinks off. Well, he taunts Carla by drinking this whiskey.
Some of the looks that Chris Gascoigne gave
he's
tonight's episode were great.
With himself.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you've done this.
It's an evil leer he gives to Carla as he's drinking that whiskey. I hope you're enjoying
watching me kill myself right in front of you. He was so evil, smug, grimly satisfied with himself.
Yeah.
Then we find him drunk in the community garden with Simon. Simon finds him there.
Makes it sound like they got drunk together.
That's why I changed it. Adam shows up because he's going off to the co-op for some reason. I don't know what he's buying. Maybe a sandwich.
To go with his bistro disco that he's having.
Oh yeah, I tell you what, apart from being bludgeoned in the head, that looked like a good night. Peter reveals to Simon what Adam's been doing, aka shagging Carla. Simon is not happy about this because he's reduced his father, Adam has reduced Peter into a drunken mess again. Peter yells at Adam to get away from him. Adam leaves. Simon storms off in tears because he's worried about his dad. Everybody knows that, you know, the next drink he takes, it could kill him. He goes to Leanne's and has a tantrum. Are you going to say something?
I was just going to say, like, now that he has had a drink and he's fine, I don't feel that threat anymore. When he was on death's door, let's say a month, I don't know how long ago it was, and the doctor said, no, really, you could kill yourself with the next drink. It's like, oh, so there's a bit of tension here. But yeah, now we've seen him do it. It's like, although they can do that indefinitely now, and maybe
no,
I don't
think
fear
so.
that.
I don't think so at all. I don't think it's instantaneous like that. I think you think that he takes a swig and then immediately vomits blood everywhere. I think that he's gonna. I reckon. I don't think they had the doctor say that for nothing. I think he's gonna. This is my prediction. He's gonna say, Carla, I was so stupid. I can't believe I did that. I'll never do it again. I feel awful. You and Simon are the most important people in the world. I'm gonna never touch alcohol again. I want to live for you. And then the next minute he's going to be spewing blood everywhere, and the doctors will appear and go, well, we sold you, you're going to die now.
But I don't think they're going to kill him off. So however far down that rabbit hole he goes, he's going to come back the other side.
It would be a
and
very,
then
very
it's not a threat.
sad ending to Peter's story, to die of alcoholism.
I think that would be quite a bold move. I kill off a Barlow and just a way like that.
I can't decide whether it would be responsible or irresponsible. Because on the one hand, it does show there are consequences, and like the amount of times that Coronation Street over the years has glamorised drinking, just like every other TV show and advert does, and song and everything. Mm-hmm. I don't blame them for that particularly, but to show that there is, you know, when we say this, it's serious. Is it irresponsible of them to not kill him off after you see him so flagrantly disregarding his health?
Can you imagine if the big twist at the end of tonight's episode would literally Peter dead in Victoria Gardens?
That would have been
amazing.
A bit sad.
It would, but it would have been an unexpected twist.
It would have
been.
I wasn't expecting Adam to wind up covered in blood and chips, so. I didn't need to be surprised in a different way than I was already.
It might have been ketchup, come to think of it, because we didn't actually see the wound from his head that the blood was.
It could have just been a very smooth burgundy ketchup.
Yeah, it's probably one of these homemade fancy ones.
Oh yeah,
but they don't have Heinz at the bistro.
Probably one of these like Professor McGonagall's magical ketchup concoction. You know, if you go into a pub and it's got that on the table, you're going to be paying more than £5 for your chips. So anyway, Peter drunkenly yells at Adam to get away from him. Adam leaves. Simon storms off in tears. He goes to Leanne's. Sarah confronts Adam in the street, and she realises that they were she's like, you were laughing at me, you and Carla, I nearly caught you, you thought you were getting away with it, you know, and there's Carla desperately trying to get rid of me, and I thought, you know, she was my friend, and it turns out she was just trying to hide the fact that she slept with my husband, yada yada yada. She points her finger at him. He
gets a case of the wonky fingers, and I appreciated the Spice Girls reference there as well, which was, what was it?
Stop right Adam... now, thank you very much.
No, it was not. It was Adam saying,
tell
me what you want.
What you really, really want. I think it was that.
It was something like that.
And she said, zigga zigga.
I appreciate it. No.
She goes inside, and then she watches Adam and Gary outside the bistro having an argument, because he's come looking for Ray, and things start escalating really quickly. And I don't know how they got to this point, but basically Adam gets so mad that he says, I'm going to tell everybody where Rick's body is in the woods, and you murdered him. I don't think he knows the precise location, so how much of a threat this really is, I'm not sure. But I love the fact that he was like, get out of my way, I've got my chips are getting cold, I'm going to tell everyone you murdered Rick. So Adam's there, and this was a great scene. This was fabulous. I am...
You love this because you spotted it. I was typing notes, weren't you? And you're like, there's someone in the background.
I was like, he's going to die. He sets up this cool speaker, and I am actually surprised that this wasn't an Argos sponsorship, because they've got a new sponsor, Coronation Street does, and it's got Argos, and they said that there's going to be product placements in some of these, and that looked like the sort of thing I'd like to put on my Christmas list, because it's like a jaunty speaker that plays.
You imagine going through the Argos catalogue and circling that one.
Oh, did you used to do that when you were a kid? I used to fold over the pages and circle things. My parents
Absolutely.
like, I don't know how
much.
much
Argos catalogue once a quarter, highlight of the year.
How much money do you think we have? So he's there and he's having his like private disco, because earlier on you said this, didn't we?
What?
He basically got Ray to leave him there alone. They had some kind of.
I did. I said that right at the beginning.
He's like, I haven't finished my wine, and
Ray's
started
trying
having
to
a go at him, and Ray's like, fine, whatever, stay here, I don't care. So he stays there by himself, and he's dancing around to music, and he's drinking wine. And as soon as he came around the bar with this bottle, I was like, this scene's too long, and there's nobody else in it. He's gonna die. So he's there, and then a shadowy black figure sort of slinks across the camera, and they pick up an award.
I couldn't tell. It was like, it looked shardy, didn't it?
It did look like the Weatherfield Good Samaritan Award that hasn't been given out yet.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was.
So Carla and Jenny and the Rovers wondering where Peter is.
Yeah, they basically, the next few scenes is a montage of scenes of
people
these people
being
are looking guilty and they're
suspicious.
coming in from somewhere.
Yeah, so Carla comes into the bistro where Jenny is, the Rover story, and she's like, they all say something really ominous to the people in the scene. Daniel's there as well. Both Carla and Daniel are wearing black. Jenny's wearing a dress with like
she's got some kind of strange spacey galaxy. So it's not her,
but it could be cool. Daniel or Carla. And so Jenny says something about seeing somebody, and she's like, "You'll never see him again," or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't quite like that, but then Sarah gets home looking really suspicious and says to David that Geoff's been killed, and David's like, oh no, who would do such a thing to poor innocent Geoff? And Sarah says, some people have it coming, and then Adam says to Sarah, I'm sure you and Adam can work it out.
David says that, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, David says to Sarah, I'm sure you and Adam can work it out. She's like, yes, he's dying to make it up to me, or something. She doesn't say that, but she should have done. Then we see Gary looking pensive with a lantern. He doesn't say anything because he's alone.
He's in the furniture shop, isn't he?
Yeah, and I have to say that there was a really cute picture of a Bichon Frise on the wall that didn't look like it belonged there at all. I don't know if it was that kind of dog. Then Peter is on the bench completely drunk. He had a brick in his hand, which he drops, and he falls asleep with his bottle of whiskey.
I don't know whether that brick was supposed to be a clue to make us think it was maybe him, but we saw the murder weapon, or not murder, the attack weapon, whatever you want to call it, and it was definitely seen to be something glass, didn't it? Or your perspex or something like that.
Unless Peter moved it, he's like, I'm going to put my brick on the bar, and
so I think that's a bit of a red herring.
In a way. I don't know, but at the end of the day, we have a big cast of villains wearing black, all of whom had motive.
That's
they
harsh.
are.
Most of them aren't.
What, they whacked a man around the head.
One of them did. Don't paint
okay.
the others with the same
Possible villains, and the final.
Sarah's a saint.
Shut up. The final scene of this episode and the 60th special anniversary week is Adam unconscious, perhaps dead, not dead, with a nasty head wound on the floor, blood everywhere, and chips placed strategically on the top of the blood, which normally would be a clue to how this crime took place, but I think it was just artistic.
Yeah, he falls to the floor and starts bleeding before the chip box falls on top of him. How did that happen? I wondered, although I liked the scene where you see some shadowy movement behind Adam, and that's where you said, something's going to happen, I think it would have had a bigger impact if we hadn't had that scene and we'd just seen all those scenes of them coming in all suspicious, and then we would have been like, boom, there's Adam on the floor looking half dead, and then we'd have rethought what we'd just seen. So the way that it happened for us, I was watching Carla, I was watching Sarah in my mind, going, okay, have they just done it?
Yeah, but I'd rather made it. No, I loved that. I loved watching it, going, who's wearing black? Who could it be? They're all suspicious. Oh, it's Who Pushed Ken again.
It is. It's Who Pushed Ken. Who dropped the roof on Rana? I don't know whether it's too soon for a who done it.
Who killed Frank?
Do you think it's too soon, or is it okay?
Tina? No, I love it. I love this so much. I'm so happy. When all this week I was like, the anniversary week is going to be really good. And then I really love Mondays. And then Wednesdays, I was like, I can kind of... I think to me, I felt like the potential made me not like it as much, because I was thinking, oh, I wonder what this would have been like if they had blah, blah, blah. And then this one, I was like, oh, here we go, blah, blah, blah. And then Sam and Leanne and were sad, and Carla shagged the wrong guy, blah, blah. And then and then Adam gets hit on the head, and I'm like, oh, I should have been paying attention because of murder, not because of romance.
I feel that the reveal of Daniel's bloodied body isn't quite as effective as Adam's bloodied body isn't quite as effective as Ken's was.
Well, I don't think anyone's favourite character at the moment is Adam. He spent a lot of time being an absolute arse.
When Ken was pushed down the stairs, he'd made a lot of enemies, but he hadn't made an enemy of the viewer, really. Whereas Adam, yeah, you're right.
Adam was such a git. He was like, oh, it's your fault that Sarah doesn't like me anymore just because I shagged you. We were on a break.
Adam was asking for it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this is as strong, because I don't feel as much sympathy for Adam.
This would be like if the episode of Friends where Ross and Rachel were on a break and then Ross slept with somebody ends with Ross being murdered and all the friends being suspects. I think it was Phoebe.
Okay, so I like how there's an unexpected twist.
I can just say again, I am the only thing that's setting off alarm bells in my head is I feel like they're pulling a Frank Foster again, where they're going, who was it out of these people? And it's like, it wasn't those people.
They always do that.
I know, but I don't like it. It's stupid.
With the Who Pushed Ken, there was the list of suspects, and it turned out it was one of them. So that was good. But this time, the list of official suspects, if you look on the ITV.com website, it's Gary, Sarah, Carla and Peter. So it's not very many. So there's the definite possibility that it could be someone else. So should we run down some of the suspects and say whether we think it was them or not? Starting with Gary. Now, he's the long-standing rival of Adam for Sarah's affections. And also there was that threat of Rick being unearthed.
Yeah,
I mean, everything. Adam was going to send the Rozzers in on Gary.
His whole life is now at stake.
So it wouldn't surprise me if he had. He certainly had the motive. He had probably the biggest motive out of everybody if he wants to keep that a secret. He also did look very brooding after.
They all did.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I think maybe they want you to think it's him because he's the one that, that offed Rana and Rick.
Can I just say something? So
therefore it must be him, is what they say, but I'm not sure.
No matter who it is that did this, apart from perhaps one person, which I think it might be, I wouldn't mind, because all of these have got the potential to take the story in an interesting way, and also their motivation is satisfying and interesting to me, and they're all big characters.
Okay, yeah. We also got Sarah being an official suspect. Obviously, she was cheated on by Adam. She has got away with murder once before. Not that she did the murder, but she was an accessory to Callum's murder and helped with the whole cover up in the drain manhole. So if she thought, well, I managed to get away with that, maybe I can do it again, although she probably shouldn't be taking that logic because it did drive her a little bit crazy and she had to go to get psychiatric treatment. So unless she's forgotten about that, I'm not sure it's her. I don't think that she's a bad character. All these other ones, Gary, Peter, even Carla to some extent, I wouldn't be surprised if they turned to this act of crazy violence, and I don't think that Sarah would.
I disagree. She was just humiliated in front of everybody in the Rovers by a man that she thought she had a chance with getting back together with, and he lied to her face about and about sleeping with somebody, and she also was embarrassed by the fact that she thought Carla was her friend.
I don't think that Sarah would have it in her to do that.
Let's move on to Carla. You've written she's regretful of bonking him, but actually the reason why she would kill him is because she thinks that what their actions have caused Peter to self-destruct.
Oh yeah.
So the man that's just said he wanted to marry her is now perhaps in the process of killing himself with alcohol, and everything that she ever wanted really is going down the drain, and he's got the gall to blame her wholeheartedly for the entire thing because he said it wasn't his fault because he was single at the time.
So do you think that Carla's a likely suspect?
The thing is,
It's another one that to
did
me
this,
feels like maybe not.
Whoever did this in a very cold blood, unless there's a scene that we didn't see where he turned around and said something to whoever it was.
Yeah.
Whoever did this, it was very calculated and planned. They walked into the bistro while he had his back turned and possibly was zonked out, a bit drunk, and hit him on the head.
So do you think that means it wasn't Peter then, because he wouldn't have been able to plan it? We're supposed to think it was maybe Peter because, you know, he had his brick. He was drunk and he maybe didn't know what he was doing.
I mean, I think it's possible he was drunk and he didn't know what he was doing, but I don't think that's the reason why he couldn't have done it.
Yeah, but then I think... So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why any of these could be red herrings. I'm still going down the it might be Simon route on this one, because he's not been put as a suspect. Last time we saw him, he was very emotional. He's mad at Adam for splitting up his dad's with his new girlfriend.
He's
Carla.
he's mad at Adam because Peter's back on the bottle again.
Yeah.
And he turns up and he's like, I don't care. And all
he's
these
got
people,
doubly reason
just to
to be.
remind everybody, all these people wearing black.
Yeah, but when we saw, because we went and watched
but
that scene, and it was a certain type of black. So
Yeah, but
Debbie
I
was
think-
wearing black that was a bit more, leathery.
Can I just say,
and this was more fluffy.
This doesn't make any difference.
No, I think that is important.
I don't
but,
think so.
But I think
Otherwise
if
they
I
would have
remember
had
right,
everybody in
Gary's, Sarah, Carla and Peter were all wearing
Yeah, but I think
more
that's a red herring.
quilty, floofy material.
So Simon also, don't forget, he's got form. He used to beat Leanne up. We know he's violent. When he gets angry, he can be violent.
Yeah. And also, I think that, I mean, depending on how things go with Adam, Simon is a bit of a dispensable character, and if they want to send him off to
Disposable.
If they want to send him off to juvie or whatever, then
He can.
maybe that's good, and then he can come back a new man afterwards.
Daniel also, he could be involved in this because
He's got form.
he was really mad when he found out they slept with each other.
Yeah.
He's worried about Peter. He's already pushed somebody down the stairs. What's hitting somebody with a statue?
He feels like he's removed enough from the story for it not to be him, but don't want to take him off the suspect list completely at this early stage. And then also we got Ken, who probably could have done it just for larks. He's still got it. He wants a
He
storyline.
wants to keep his hand in.
Yeah, maybe he has actually done this, and he's still resentful of the fact that he's Mike Baldwin's son.
He was notable by his absence during the protesting.
Yeah, he had
They were
his
handing
sciatica
out,
playing it, weren't
they were
they?
handing
So he
out
couldn't
hot
stay out
toddies, and
overnight.
he wasn't there.
Yeah.
I like this theory that we've got sent by David Brown on Twitter, and I'm going to be mad if this is actually what it turns out to be, because I think this is quite plausible, but you don't think so. He thinks it was Debbie, and she thought she was attacking Ray.
Yeah, again, interesting twist to have somebody who's not on the suspect list, but I don't see that Adam... I don't see the resemblance between Ray and Adam. I think she would have realised. Also, the last time we saw Debbie and Ray, it looked like they were well into, a round of drinks at the hotel where they're discussing about this development. So I don't think she would have got out. And like I said, she knew where Ray was because she's just been with him.
What about if it was Ray? Because
Possibly.
he had a black coat on at one point later on in the day. I don't know why he would really want to smack Adam on the head, but I mean, he's evil. Unless
he wants to pin it on Gary, because he wants to stop Gary from not selling him the hotel. So if he says, "Oh, I saw Gary going on into there," and 5 minutes later Adam was dead,
maybe he needs to raise some money for his defence, Gary. If he gets caught up by the police, and then Ray'd be like, "Sell your factory to me, and I'll give you all the money in the world."
Yeah. So it is a little bit early to decide, but
I love this kind of thing.
I'm going for Simon as my end of week one prediction.
Who do I think it is? I think it's Simon as well. I don't know. I love it so much. I can't believe I'm ending this week so excited. More excited perhaps than I was at the beginning.
Odd that it is the Barlows again that they've chosen.
It really is the Barlows,
because I hope it doesn't end up feeling too similar to the Who Pushed Pen.
It's all the Barlows again, and they're all dressed as Connors in tribute.
Well, we know the Connors numbers dwindling on the street. Somebody's got to get the black gear on.
Yeah.
As the Bistro Ninja, that's who it was.
Yeah.
Who was the Bistro Ninja that killed Adam? Or just
still come around in a
just
circle.
Hurt him a little bit.
Perhaps he was the ghost of the Bistro Ninja.
Maybe it was. what did you think about the fact that they mentioned Rick Nealon again? Because I was starting to worry that it had been
too long and they might have forgotten.
Tucked under the carpet after Bernie and
Swept
under the carpet after Bernie finds the watch earlier this year.
Well, they clearly want to. Yeah, I mean, are they going to go to the forest and dig up? Can they go and do? Is this possible? Can they go and do?
I think it's going to have to at some point.
I mean, lots of things are opening up. I mean, COVID cases aren't going away, and the government's trying to restrict people a bit more than they did before. But now, are they giving people? It feels like we're getting more freedoms in some places and less in others. Like, at the moment, we're not allowed to go anywhere or see friends and family, but you are allowed to go to restaurants and pantomimes and theatre and stuff. So, I mean, the thing is, it's not an... Is it an economic activity? I guess so, because you're making a TV show. I mean, what do TV shows... I mean, we know that some television shows are filming. It's not just Coronation Street filming in sets. What do they do?
Yeah, I don't know.
There must be places that are filming outside.
I don't think they would have mentioned that if that wasn't going to come up again, but I also wonder about the Callum stuff and whether that's going to come up, because Gary knows the truth about Callum, doesn't he? Yep. So if Sarah falls into the arms of Gary at some point, which I still think is a distinct possibility, that could get brought up. But to be honest, though, the way that the week went, it was satisfyingly non-predictable, because I mean, when Abby leaves Kevin on Monday after he suspects her of stealing of stashing away drugs in the car, I was convinced that she was going to find Peter and they'd end up
that's what you kept
together.
Saying. You're like, oh, it's so obvious that it's just going to end up with blah, blah, blah.
Nothing like that happened.
Well, I'm glad.
So
I'm really glad.
For theories.
Wow. That would have been the most irritating way for it to have gone.
Yeah,
so.
no, I agree.
And this is, honestly, you can turn any story into a whodunit. I'll love it.
I'm not loving it as much as you. Wow. I think it's fine. I think it's... I appreciate the surprise twist more than the contents of the twist. But I mean, it's still warming up, isn't it? I guess next week will be the test to see whether it's actually worth it or not. And then that's it for this week's Street Talk, Gemma.
Wow.
So the time has come for us to give our score for the 60th anniversary week and what we're scoring it out of.
Yeah.
It's a really tricky one because it was in no means perfect. I mean, if the tram week was a 5, this wasn't a 5, was it? Unless it's quite a broad range of what a 5 is.
I was reading the synopsis of the tram week and I was like, oh yeah, this was fantastic.
And I don't think we're going to look back at this week and feel exactly the same way. There were some obvious highs, like the court case on Monday, elements of the Geoff and Yasmin after that, the surprise whodunit.
The thing is, a lot of these stories felt quite separated from one another, whereas the tram week stuff was very intricately woven, where, like, you know, disaster after disaster occurred and it all impacted on other people's stories, whereas this was like, meanwhile, Yasmin crawls on the roof, you know?
Yeah. I don't know whether to knock it down points, because as an anniversary week, it's... you know, you got an expectation of height and of a high score, and I don't know.
Well,
I'm erring between a 4 and a 5, a 4 and a 4.5, and I don't want to give it 4.5 just because it was anniversary week. But honestly, the Leanne stuff seemed a little bit pointless, and Monday and Wednesday the Carla Peter Adams stuff was a little bit dull too. I can't think of a huge amount of dialogue that was instantly quotable and memorable for years to come. But then you don't get that every week, and you don't mark it down normal weeks because of that.
What do you think Evelyn's going to think of Sam?
I don't know. What's that got to do with anything?
I don't know. I was just thinking, like, I still really like Sam, but I'm starting to think that he's a one-trick pony.
Possibly.
Like, oh, I'm gobsmacked. This child is so precocious. I just think Evelyn wouldn't be impressed. Wow, come on, give it a score, because I want to know what you're going to score out of.
I'm going to give this 4 times New Roman enemas.
I was going to take that one.
Well, I came up with that.
I know you did. That's why I was going to let you have it first.
And my character of the week this week is Imran. Even though he was only in Monday's episode, out of everyone this week, he was the character that I was fist pumping the most for.
Oh my
and
God,
saying,
don't do that.
Come on, Imran, do it. You show him. And for various reasons, a lot of the other characters, I mean, the problem with some of the other storylines, there are a lot of despicable characters, like in this Fag and Shaggin story. I mean, nobody really came out of that smelling of roses, did they? Yasmin was good, but and Geoff was fun, but I don't want to give it to Geoff just because it was his final week. Honestly, I thought yet again I was so impressed with Imran on Monday. He gets it 2 weeks in a row from me.
We keep coming out with double entendres.
It's late, I'm tired.
I give it 4.5 boiling
Ooh.
frogs.
Oh, also an Imran reference.
Yeah, I was going to give it to Imran. But
Don't
then
let
you
me
said
stop you.
then you said it's just final week, and the way that he performed that line of the laughing, and I don't know. It is his final week, but then you're right. I think of all the characters this week, Imran was the one who blew me away.
He
blew
turned
me
the
away
tables
most.
in the story as well. If it wasn't for Imran, Yasmin could just be rotting away in jail,
And
and
it wasn't
Geoff
that-
could be living another day.
It wasn't that nobody else, was worth anything, but it was more of an ensemble piece this week. So many people turned in really great performances, and there were so many great lines and great character moments and stuff. But Imran really was like the centre of attention on Monday, and he completely lived up to that. And I was so impressed with his speech and I loved when he got that CCTV out and Geoff was like, oh no.
I know, the look on Imran's face is just brilliant.
And he was so happy and pleased with himself. And I also really like the way...
It's just such a shame we didn't see him on Wednesday, Friday.
I like the way that he's probably one of the most approachable professionals, because he's got self-doubt and you see him practicing, and you don't see like Dr. Gaddis like with Grey's Anatomy going, oh yeah, I've got that bit goes there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's a bit more human.
Yeah.
You don't get to see other people do, like you see them, I'm at the desk, I'm doing lawyer work, but he was literally like practicing, and you've seen him before with Ryan like, oh, I was bricking it,
Yeah.
and so that built to the character like
And he done good.
worrying because he cared so much. Like it wasn't just professional pride, it was like, I have to get this right because Yasmin's life is at stake and I'm worried that I won't be able to do it. I guess I have to give it to him now.
Blimey, 4 points over 2 weeks for Imran. Got to be someone else next week, surely.
Well,
Guess
I've
wait
heard
next
tell
week
he's
and
not in it a
see.
lot.
I think that's it then.